Hey truckers, here is part of 2. My dad is my mom's mortal enemy. Let's dive into the video. Qing Jinglan and Qing Jinchuan arrived one after the other. Kang Yichan, who was waiting downstairs, welcomed them to the president's private elevator straight to the top floor. Qing Jinchuan tore off his tie and said to Qing Jinglan, "Don't be scared, Qing Liqui's surname is Qing, she has no relation to the Xiao family. If that Xiao Qingzai dares to try anything funny, there's no need to hire anyone, I'll break his legs myself. I've wanted to beat him up for days anyway, this is a good chance to settle old and new grudges together." Kang Yichan kept her eyes on her nose and nose on her heart, pretending not to hear Qing Jinchuan's words. If possible, she just wanted to merge into one with the elevator. Qing Jinglan's eyes were a little unfocused. The current situation probably wasn't them doing whatever they wanted, but depended on Qing Liqui. Since Qing Liqui managed to find her way here, it meant she wanted this dad. She couldn't deprive her daughter of the desire to have a father. Qing Jinchuan had wanted to kick the door open, but remembering there was a child inside, he stopped his leg and pushed with his hands instead. But he used too much force, and the door was lighter than he expected, causing him to nearly fall inside. Qing Jinchuan pretended nothing had happened and straightened up, tidying his clothes. He cursed inwardly, damn, this entrance totally ruined the Qing family's image. Inside the office, Qing Liqui sat on the sofa, feet dangling. The coffee table in front of her was full of food, from fruits to snacks to desserts. Whenever Qing Liqui pointed at something, Xiao Qingzai would take it over to feed her. Seeing Uncle come in, she happily waved at Uncle. "Uncle, I found Dad." Qing Jinchuan, who had just straightened up, nearly crumpled again. Right, he had forgotten. Their little princess loved nothing more than boosting the Xiao family's morale and crushing her uncle's prestige. He came here to beat someone up, not bear witness to her finding her dad. Qing Jinglan followed behind Qing Jinchuan into the office. Seeing her mother come in, Qing Liqui hopped off the sofa and ran to her mother's side, pulling her mother's hand and pointing to Xiao Qingzai, "Mom, I found Dad." Qing Jinglan forced a smile and stroked her little head, saying softly, "Our Liqui is amazing." Qing Jinchuan strode up to Xiao Qingzai and said in a low voice through gritted teeth, still smiling, "Let's find a place to talk." "I won't talk to you." Xiao Qingzai didn't look at him, eyes falling on the clasped large and small hands by the door. He replied absent-mindedly. Qing Jinchuan flared up. "Why won't you talk to me? You don't have the qualifications." Qing Jinchuan directly ripped off his tie and flung it over his shoulder. Was he looking to get beat up now or what? "I'm her uncle, why don't I have the qualifications?" Xiao Qingzai gave him a cold glance. "I'm her father. I'll only discuss her matters with her mother." Qing Jinchuan was about to lose control of his temper. He had only been a dad for a few minutes and was already so composed and justified that Qing Jinchuan took another step forward, blocking his line of sight to the door. "Her mother won't talk to you." Xiao Qingzai looked at him, their gazes clashing. He asked, "Are you sure you can represent her?" Qing Jinchuan really wanted to smash his chest. Why wasn't he sure? He was very sure. He didn't understand how someone as unlovable as him gave birth to such a lovable Qing Liqui. He should make sure if he really was the child's father first. "Uncle, Dad, what are you whispering about?" Qing Liqui saw Uncle and Dad getting closer and closer, their heads were about to knock against each other. She was very curious what they were talking about. The somewhat dazed Qing Jinglan shuddered heavily at the sound of Qing Liqui calling Dad. Once again confirming that this wasn't a dream. Xiao Qingzai's face, full of anger, was masked by a layer of fake smiles. He spoke to Qing Liqui very kindly, "Didn't say anything, we were just discussing what to eat for dinner tonight." Speaking of dinner, Qing Liqui raised her wrist to look at her watch. It was almost 6 o'clock. If they didn't go back soon, Grandma would start to worry. She pulled her mother's hand, "Mom, let's go back. Granny Chu should have almost finished cooking. She said she would make my favorite spinach beef rolls tonight." Xiao Qingzai was happy. He turned around and walked over to take Qing Liqui's hand, "Okay, let's hurry home to eat the big meal Granny Chu made." He had to get back home quickly. He couldn't stand being in this Zhao Corporation building for another second or he would be angered to death. But Qing Liqui avoided Xiao Qingzai's hand and looked towards Chong Qingzai on the sofa. She reached out her hand to him, "Dad, let's go. Granny Chu's cooking is so tasty." Xiao Qingzai looked at his hand left hanging in midair. The blood that had been blocked in his 7 orifices by his beloved niece, whom he had cherished since she was little, suddenly gushed out. The coldness in Chong Qing's eyes faded away. He strode over and held her plump little hand. His voice was gentler than it had ever been. "You have to ask your mother first, if she will let your dad eat the meal Granny Chu made." Qing Jinlan shot a cold glance at him in her eyes, cursing him for being despicable. Chong Qingzi didn't feel guilty at all. His eyes never left her, moving from her eyebrows, to her eyes, and then to her lips. Qing Liqui shook her mother's hand. "Mom, can Dad eat the meal Granny Chu made?" Looking into her daughter's innocent eyes, Qing Jinlan couldn't say no. There really seemed to be something like blood ties and familial love. She had only seen him for a short time, yet they could interact so intimately and naturally, as if he had always lived with them. She steeled her heart and said to Qing Liqui, "He has to work overtime and is very busy. He can't leave yet." Qing Liqui turned her head and asked Chong Qingzi, "Dad, do you have overtime?" Chong Qingzi said, "Dad doesn't have overtime. I can leave now." Qing Liqui happily looked at her mother. "Mom, Dad doesn't have overtime. He can leave." Whenever Qing Liqui called Dad, a nerve in Qing Jinlan's mind tightened. She bent down to pick her up and patiently explained, "But you didn't tell Granny Chu in advance that we would have a guest over for dinner tonight. Granny Chu is not prepared. How about next time? We can invite him over to eat at home next time." Qing Liqui replied, "But Dad is not a guest. Dad is Dad. He is family." Qing Jinlan's shoulders stiffened and her face instantly turned ghastly pale. Seeing her bloodless face, Chong Qing's eyes flickered. He said to Qing Liqui, "Little Liqui, let's not go eat at Granny Chu's tonight. Dad will take you to a restaurant to eat, okay?" Qing Liqui blinked. "Is Mom coming too?" Before Qing Jinlan could speak, Chong Qingzi had already answered for her, "Of course your mom is coming too." Qing Liqui clapped her hands. "Great! This is the first time I'm eating with Mom and Dad together." Qing Liqui's words blocked all the words Qing Jinlan had prepared to say. She couldn't refuse her daughter this first time that she wanted. Chong Qingzi held his hand out to Qing Liqui. "Does my darling want Dad to carry you? It will be tiring for Mom." "Okay." Qing Liqui climbed onto her dad's arm from her mom's embrace. "Let's go," Chong Qingzi said to the somewhat dazed people. Qing Liqui took her mother's hand. "Mom, let's go." Qing Jinlan could only follow along. Discover new chapters at novelby.co. Qing Jinchuan was left alone in the office. No one cared how he would eat or how he would leave. So why did he even come today? Was he going to die in this Zhao Corporation building? It was currently after work hours, but none of the Zhao Corporation employees had left. Some were pretending to linger at their workstations, some were wandering around on the first-floor lobby, some were sitting in their cars looking around. Everyone was waiting for the boss to come out and see how the story would continue. But after waiting for a long time, there was no movement. A message popped up in the Qingzhou century-long friendship WeChat group formed on the spot. "Stop waiting." The boss already left with his daughter from the underground parking lot. Everyone wailed. Why couldn't the boss satisfy their gossip-loving worker mentality? The next second, another photo popped up in the group, stopping everyone's wails. The photo came from an anonymous little assistant in the board of directors' office. In the photo, Boss Zhao was holding a little girl while walking in front. The little girl was holding the hand of Miss Qing Er behind her. She was smiling sweetly, seeming to be saying something. Boss Zhao's usual cold brows and eyes were so gentle they seemed to be dripping water. Yuan Zhongzhou jumped in and said, "Wow, I never noticed before that our eternally icy Boss Zhao actually has the potential to be a daughter slave." With Yuan Zhongzhou taking the lead, everyone below +1 foot ed. Now that Boss had a daughter, would he change his ways and stop being cold-faced and scolding people all day? Was their happy work life about to arrive? Xiao Qingzi parked the car in a quiet alley. It was a private kitchen. The owner came out himself to greet them. Seeing the scene before him, he was somewhat stunned. Xiao Qingzi briefly introduced the person behind him, Qing Jinlan. Then he said to Qing Jinlan, "This is the owner, Mr. Wei." Mr. Wei quickly greeted, "Hello Miss Qing." Qing Jinlan expressionlessly nodded slightly in response. Mr. Wei lightly coughed. His eyes seemed to ask, "How did you bring Miss Qing Er here? And you're holding a little girl too. What's going on?" Xiao Qingze ignored Mr. Wei's meaningful glances and introduced Qing Liqui, my daughter, Qing Liqui. Mr. Wei had lived most of his life and was used to all kinds of spectacles. But in the end, he still couldn't control his facial expression. His mouth automatically opened in a daze. Qing Liqui found the private chef owner's dazed look very funny. She laughed and waved at him, "Uncle, hello." Mr. Wei snapped back and gave Qing Liqui an even bigger smile, "Hello, little missy." The two little people in Mr. Wei's heart were already chatting behind a 10-foot-high wall. Judging by this little missy's looks, she was undoubtedly the child of these two people. Her eyes looked exactly like her dad's, and you could see traces of her mom in her features. But these two adults were both so cold. How did they give birth to such a sweet little missy? This was truly a puzzling question. At the dinner table, Qing Liqui sat in the middle with Xiao Qingze on her left and Qing Jinlan on her right. The atmosphere was quiet, but also not quiet. It wasn't quiet because of Qing Liqui. She asked Xiao Qingze one question after another. As Xiao Qingze fed her peeled shrimp into her mouth, he answered her questions and used a napkin to wipe the oil from the corners of her mouth. When she swallowed the food in her mouth, he brought over the glass of water beside him and asked if she wanted to drink some water. Although this was the first time the two of them ate together, their interactions were exceptionally natural and smooth. It was quiet because of Qing Jinlan. She sat aside, poking at the food in her bowl, and hadn't uttered a word. In all this time, she had only swallowed one leaf of bok choy. Qing Liqui looked at her mom, then her dad. "Dad, help pick a piece of fish for Mom. Mom likes fish." "That fish is too far for Mom to reach." The chopsticks in both Qing Jinlan and Xiao Qingze's hands paused at the same time. Qing Jinlan lifted her head and said to Qing Liqui, "It's okay. Eat your food like a good girl. Mom can reach it herself." Right after she finished speaking, the public chopsticks had already placed the tenderest piece of fish in her bowl. Qing Jinlan softly uttered a polite thank you, and said no more. The fish in her bowl was left untouched even when it turned cold. Qing Liqui looked at the pitiful piece of fish, then at her mom. Finally she scooted next to her dad and whispered, "Dad, did you make Mom angry? Is that why Mom doesn't want you anymore?" Qing Jinlan and Xiao Qingze's chopsticks paused again at the same time. Qing Jinlan put down her chopsticks and looked at Qing Liqui. "He didn't make your mom angry." "Little Liqui, not all fathers and mothers live together. Some live separately after divorce. You understood what divorce means when Mom explained it to you before, do you still remember?" Qing Liqui nodded. "It means two adults who are unhappy living together will be happier separated, so the baby will be happy too." She thought carefully about the meaning of those words again. "So Mom, divorce is a good thing, not a bad thing, right?" Qing Jinlan nuzzled her little cheeks. "Our little Liqui is really smart. Although your dad and I don't live together, we both love you very very much." Qing Liqui's mouth curved up happily. "I love you too Mom, super love, way more than very much. Qing Jinlan's eyes softened with smiles. Xiao Qingze accidentally knocked over his chopsticks on the plate as he watched her gentle profile. Throughout the meal, the two adults didn't say a word to each other. After the meal, Xiao Qingze drove towards Qing Garden. Qing Liqui's eyelids were getting heavy. For a 6-year-old kid, she had experienced a bit too much today with lots of emotional ups and downs. After eating her fill, she was starting to feel sleepy. Qing Jinlan gently patted her back. Soon, Qing Liqui fell asleep. The car stopped steadily at the entrance of Qing Garden. Xiao Qingze turned off the engine and looked at the two people in the back from the rearview mirror. "Can we talk?" "I'll take her back first." Qing Jinlan reached out to carry Qing Liqui. After what happened last time, even if Qing Liqui was asleep, Qing Jinlan would be careful not to talk about anything inappropriate in front of her. Xiao Qingze got out of the car and opened the back door, leaning in to take the girl from her arms. "Let me carry her." Qing Jinlan got out of the car and shifted sideways to avoid his hands. "No need, wait here for me." She didn't want him to enter her home. Xiao Qingze watched her walk farther and farther away until she disappeared through the entrance. He took out a cigarette, but before he could light it, he crumpled the whole pack in his fist and threw it in the trash can. He sent a few messages to Kong Yichan and Little respectively. Qing Jinlan came back out quickly and got straight to the point. "I don't want to see any news about Qing Liqui online tomorrow. Her family background shouldn't be gossip fodder for others. I've had someone take care of it already. Thanks." With that the conversation ended, leaving only the intermittent chirping of crickets in the roadside bushes. After a long silence, Xiao Qingzi spoke, "Why didn't you tell me? At the very least, I'm the child's father." Qing Jinlan straightened out the creases on her sleeve left by Qing Liqui, her tone indifferent, "No need. That night I got drunk, it could have been anyone, not just you." She looked him in the eye, "In other words, you just happened to be the father by coincidence, nothing more." Xiao Qingzi's face darkened, the veins on his forehead bulging. "Qing Jinlan," he pronounced each syllable of her name heavily, the first heavily and the last softly, conveying his helplessness. "Must you say it like that?" Qing Jinlan laughed indifferently. "If not, then what? The facts are just so. Now that you know, when she wants to see you, I won't stop her. But it'll just be seeing you, not anyone else from the Xiao family. Xiao Qingzi, I'm warning you, if you dare use her for anything, I won't let you off and neither will the Changs." Xiao Qingzi took a step forward. If he could, he wished he could cut open his heart for her to see. "Why would I use her? She's my daughter. Do you think so little of me?" Qing Jinlan laughed coldly. "Yes, in my eyes you're not just unworthy, you're also despicable, shameless. Don't try anything funny or fight me for custody. I don't want to tear faces with you in front of Qing Liqui, but if we really come to that, we'll tear as much as needed." When anger peaked, it brought calmness. The churning volcanoes in Xiao Qingzi's eyes receded into lifelessness. He looked towards the light behind her and said heavily with despair, "I won't fight you for custody. Even if I'm as despicable and shameless as you say, I know that having not fulfilled a father's duty for a single day while she grew up, what right do I have to fight you for custody? Good that you know." With that, words were exhausted and nothing more needed to be said. Qing Jinlan turned to leave. Xiao Qingzi called out to stop her, "Can I pick her up from school tomorrow?" Qing Jinlan didn't reply. "If not, can I at least call her tonight?" Qing Jinlan finally responded, "I'll ask her when she wakes up tomorrow." Xiao Qingzi watched her walk farther and farther away until her silhouette disappeared completely. "You and Sure Ran didn't get married. Why did you lie to me?" Discover EU chapters at novelby.co. Qing Jinlan stopped in her tracks but didn't turn back. "I never lied to you." That's right, she never lied to him. She just didn't deny it when he had asked. "Besides, who I marry or not has nothing to do with you." With that, she quickly strode through the gates and vanished from his sight. Qing Jinlan got up in the middle of the night for water and stood by the window for a bit before returning to bed. She thought she wouldn't be able to sleep, but contrary to expectations, she slept through the night without dreams. In the morning, after Qing Jinlan combed Qing Liqui's hair into braids and sat her down on the sofa, she said, "Little Liqui, you were very happy to see Dad yesterday, right?" Qing Liqui nodded, rubbing her still groggy eyes. "She had lots of dreams last night. Shin Chuchi found her mom and I found my dad. Now we're just like the other kids, with a mom and dad both." Qing Jinlan lovingly stroked her head. "Dad said he wants to pick you up from school today." Qing Liqui's eyes lit up as she looked at Qing Jinlan. "Can he, Mom?" "Of course he can. Although Dad and I don't live together, whenever you want to see Dad, you can tell Mom. But for now, meeting Dad will be our little secret, especially from Grandpa and Grandma, okay?" Qing Liqui thought for a bit then nodded, "Okay Mom." She hooked pinkies with Mom. She was best at keeping secrets. Qing Jinlan brought Qing Liqui next door for breakfast. As soon as they entered the yard, they saw Qing Jinchuan. Qing Liqui let go of Mom's hand and ran to her. "Uncle, good morning." Qing Jinchuan sulkily turned his head away, ignoring his niece. He was still upset. Qing Liqui went around trying to see her uncle's face. "Uncle, did you sleep well last night?" Qing Jinchuan turned his head the other way again. As if he could have slept well. Qing Liqui ran to his other side and held his hand. "Uncle, can I sing you a song? I just learned it at school yesterday. You'll be the first one I sing it to." Since it was the first one, Qing Jinchuan reluctantly gave his niece a glance. "Go ahead, let me hear how it sounds first." Qing Liqui made up a song called "Only My Uncle Is Good in the World." Qing Jinchuan was defeated by his niece's singing. He picked her up and asked in a low gravelly voice, "Since only Uncle is good in the world, do you like Uncle more or Xiao Qingzi more?" Without any hesitation, Qing Liqui said, "Of course I like Uncle more." "Humph, even if it's a lie," Qing Jinchuan was soothed. Qing Liqui hugged Qing Jinchuan's neck and softly asked, "Uncle, you don't like my dad?" Qing Jinchuan pinched her little nose. "Uncle only likes you." "All right, so that means he doesn't like Dad." Just as Qing Jinchuan was leaving, he murmured to Qing Jinlan, "I'll try to keep things down on dad and mom's side, but I can't do it for long. You'll have to come clean to them soon." Thanks bro. The few times Qing Jinlan called him bro could be counted on one hand. Qing Jinchuan slicked his hair back with both hands. If he had been wearing a coat, he would have flicked the lapels back dramatically. As the eldest brother, he had to shoulder more than others after all. Xiao Qingze received a call from Xiao Yunjing first thing in the morning. Even if they tried to suppress this matter further, there's no way old Master Xiao wouldn't find out. This time, Xiao Qingze didn't reject the call but answered it directly. Xiao Yunjing's anger had already reached a boiling point, but the moment Xiao Qingze answered, his anger deflated like a firecracker doused in water. He hadn't expected Xiao Qingze to answer his call so quickly. This was the first time he had picked up so fast. Xiao Yunjing cleared his throat and worked up his anger again. "Xiao Qingze, do you take my words as farting? Or do you take our family rules as farting?" Xiao Qingze fidgeted with his lighter, saying farting is going too far. Xiao Yunjing's blood pressure started shooting up. Just going too far? So it's about the same as farting? You think just because you've got some backbone now, I don't dare do anything to you? I've never thought that way. You're free to kick me out of the Xiao Corporation again. I don't want to deal with this mess anyway. The glass of water Xiao Yunjing was holding was raised up high before he slammed it heavily back onto the table. If not for his useless second son and grandson, he wouldn't use this wolf cub that bites back when not fed properly. And it's not even sneaky biting but openly biting back at you. Yet he was helpless against Xiao Qingze. He softened his tone, "Son, I can overlook you deliberately going against me in the past to provoke that Qing girl, but I can't accept you having a child with her. I won't recognize that child." Xiao Qingze scoffed, with complete mockery, "You're speaking too self-importantly. Her surname is Qing. Do you think the Qing family will let you recognize her? They'd be thrilled to have nothing to do with your Xiao family. Let me make this clear first, if you just drink your tea and play your chess in peace, and don't meddle in my affairs, we'll have nothing to do with each other. If you insist on making trouble out of nothing and nagging her, then however the Xiao family affairs end up, it'll have nothing to do with me. My father's been gone for years already, so even if I don't obey his dying wish, I'm sure he won't blame me." Xiao Yunjing was so angry he couldn't get a word out. Xiao Qingze didn't waste time chatting with him further, just directly hung up the phone. Then he texted Shen Shiwen, telling her not to blab anything about Qing Liqui to her stepmother. Shen Shiwen called him right back. "What, the young Miss Qing wouldn't let you recognize your daughter? When the time is right, I'll handle it myself. You and your son better watch your mouths." Shen Shiwen wasn't about to take a loss on this deal. If she kept quiet, she'd have to face her stepmother's temper alone today. She had to get some compensation for emotional distress. "Then I expect double hush money, right?" Xiao Qingze put his foot down. "Double the double. Deal." Since he agreed so readily, Shen Shiwen was happy to agree too. Let her stepmother's anger come on stronger. She could withstand anything now. Around noon, Xiao Qingze received a text message from Qing Jinlan. It had the address of the kindergarten and pickup time, along with a name, Wu Lin, and her phone number. "You can have dinner with her. Wu Lin will accompany her. After dinner, just hand her over to Wu Lin." Xiao Qingze stared at the message on his screen, typed out a response, then deleted it word by word until only OK remained to send back. He checked the time. He couldn't sit still any longer. He put on his coat, went out, and knocked on Kong Yichuan's desk. "Have Yuan Zhongzhou take that business trip for me. And unless it's extremely urgent today, handle everything yourself." Kong Yichuan stood up. "Yes, President Xiao." She automatically interpreted what her boss meant, "Don't call me." Xiao Qingze walked out a couple steps, then turned back. "I remember you said your daughter is 7? Yes. What kinds of food, toys, and stories do girls that age like?" Kong Yichuan knew this question was important. "Why don't I summarize it and send it to your phone?" She pushed aside all her other work and made this her top priority. In the end, she sent the boss a concise, clear report. First Xiao Qingze went to buy a child safety seat, then he went to the specialty store and bought half a carload of stuffed animals. Then he drove to the kindergarten entrance and quietly sat in the car, looking at the photo Yuan Zhongzhou had turned into him, tracing his finger over her face inch by inch. He probably wouldn't get to see her smile like this again in his life. When it was time, Xiao Qingzhe got out of the car. Wu Lin was already waiting at the kindergarten entrance. Seeing Xiao Qingzhe approach, she took the initiative to introduce herself. Xiao Qingzhe held out his hand. "Hello, Wu Lin." Wu Lin hadn't expected to get such a formal handshake from the new head of the Xiao family. She quickly stretched out her own hand in response. Li Peifeng came over wearing sunglasses, smiling as he greeted Wu Lin. Today Shen Shiwen had gone to pick up her stepmother, so he was here to get his son after school. Speaking of which, recently he hadn't been too happy. He'd set things up well, getting his son to recognize his mother, but who knew, the mother only wanted her son and not him. He used to have Shen Chuchi to keep him company at dinner, but now his son had gone into his mother's embrace, leaving Li Peifeng utterly alone. This plan had cost him both his wife and his troops. When Li Peifeng saw Xiao Qingzhe, the smile left his face. "What are you doing here?" Qing Liqui came running out holding her teacher's hand. Seeing Xiao Qingzhe from afar, she shouted loudly, "Dad!" She was about to add another dad, but seeing Uncle Li, she hurriedly closed her mouth. She just took Xiao Qingzhe's hand instead. Li Peifeng felt this was odd. "Little Liqui, why are you holding his hand?" He looked back and forth between Qing Liqui and Xiao Qingzhe, finding it even stranger. He hadn't noticed before, but seeing them side by side now, damn, their eyes were carved from the same mold. Qing Liqui explained to Uncle Li, "He's my dad's friend." Li Peifeng thought she meant Sure Ran. "Since when were Sure Ran and him friends?" Xiao Qingzhe's face darkened. Shen Chuchi also came running out. He'd originally wanted to call Dad, but seeing Xiao Qingzhe, he shouted loudly, "Uncle!" "Uncle?" Li Peifeng was about to yank his son's ear. "Why are you calling him uncle? What uncle is he? He's trying to steal your mom, and you call him uncle?" Shen Chuchi replied, "He's my grandma's biological son, so of course I should call him uncle." His grandma's biological son? Then wasn't he his big uncle? Li Peifeng's expression twisted. He didn't know how to react. He nodded curtly at Xiao Qingzhe, grabbed Shen Chuchi, and ran off. He decided to first figure out the relationship between Xiao Qingzhe's mother and Shen Shiwen before deciding his next step. Xiao Qingzhe watched Li Peifeng's fleeing back with narrowed eyes. Looks like this was the cheap dad of Shen Chuchi. Qing Liqui tugged Xiao Qingzhe's hand. "Dad, Mom said we have to keep it secret from others for now that you're my dad, so I can't tell others you're my dad yet." Xiao Qingzhe bent down and picked her up. "So this will be our secret between you, me, and Mom?" Qing Liqui nodded. Xiao Qingzhe's eyes smiled. "Dad likes having secrets between the three of us." Qing Liqui had the same smiling eyes. "Me too." "Dad, where are we going?" Qing Liqui sat in her dad's car, stroking the half-carload of stuffed animals, only settling down after a good long while of excitement. "We're going to eat." "Just the two of us? What about Mom?" Seeing her worried look, Xiao Qingzhe couldn't help stroking her little braided pigtails. "Then let's go eat a dessert to fill up your tummy first, then you can go home and keep Mom company for dinner." "How's that sound?" Qing Liqui smiled. "Good. I love eating sweet stuff the most." At the dessert shop, Qing Liqui and Dad sat facing each other. Xiao Qingzhe scooped up a bite of cake and brought it to her mouth. Qing Liqui took the cake and spoon into her mouth together. "Dad, do you like Mom?" Seeing the innocent purity in her eyes, Xiao Qingzhe said softly, "I like her." "If you like Mom, you have to make her happy." Xiao Qingzhe gave a wry smile. "Dad doesn't know how to make her happy." She didn't like him, so no matter what he did, he probably couldn't make her happy. It was so easy to make a little girl happy. Qing Liqui hooked her little pinky with her dad's. "Big Uncle said he has 100 tricks to make girls happy. I'll tell Big Uncle to be your teacher, okay?" But then she immediately rejected her own idea. "But Big Uncle doesn't seem to like you very much either, so he probably doesn't want to teach you." Qing Liqui looked her dad's face up and down. She seemed a little worried. Mom didn't want Grandpa and Grandma to know yet that she'd found Dad, so that meant Grandpa and Grandma didn't like Dad either. She propped her head in one hand and sighed. Then she asked a question straight from the depths of her soul. "Dad, you're so good-looking, so why don't people like you?" Xiao Qingzhe's face stiffened slightly, but it wasn't too bad. At least in his daughter's heart, he could still occupy a good-looking position. He used a napkin to wipe away the cream from the corner of her mouth, not knowing if he was comforting her or comforting himself. It's good enough that little Liqui likes her dad. Hearing her dad say this, Qing Liqui felt even more worried. She rested her other hand on her chin too, but I don't really like dad much right now either. Today is only the second time I've met dad. I feel, She carefully weighed dad's current position in her heart, then held out her little hand. Her thumb landed on the last joint of her pinky finger. She didn't stop and kept going up until she barely had less than a millimeter left on the tip of her pinky finger, this much liking for dad. Sitting not far away, Wu Lin had been holding it in the whole time. But now, even with all her effort, she couldn't keep it in. Her coughs pushed their way out from her throat, and she couldn't stop them no matter what. Even tears were coughed out. Wu Jijia, what's wrong? Seeing her like this, Qing Liqui was a little worried. Wu Lin waved her hands repeatedly, holding in her bright red neck as she said, I'm fine, the cake was too sweet, stuck in my throat. Wu Jijia, drink some water. Okay. Wu Lin hurriedly picked up the water and took a sip, pretending she couldn't see President Xiao's face that looked like he was bleeding internally. Xiao Qingzhe probably wouldn't need to eat dinner today. 2 rocks had already pressed down in his stomach, one heavier than the other. Little Liqui, do you want to be dad's teacher and teach dad how to get people to like him? Qing Liqui's worried look dispersed, and bright twinkling stars shone in her eyes. I can be a teacher? Xiao Qingzhe smiled, of course, mom likes you the most. That's right, mom likes her the most, so of course she can be dad's teacher. But she had never been a teacher before and didn't know how to teach little kids, let alone big kids. Qing Liqui's eyes fell on the smile at the corner of dad's mouth, and she suddenly had inspiration. She sat up straight, lightly cleared her throat, and spoke seriously, imitating what teachers look like when they're teaching class. Dad's big friend, you have to smile more, don't keep your mouth corners like this. She imitated dad's manner, lowering her own mouth corners. Your brows are furrowed sometimes too, like a big tiger, very scary. You're good looking when you smile, like me. Mom is happiest when I smile. When I smile, mom smiles too. The smile at the corner of Xiao Qingzhe's mouth grew bigger. Like this? Qing Liqui nodded heavily. Just like this. Your mom has also said, she likes seeing me smile. Xiao Qingzhe's voice revealed a hint of absent-mindedness. That was when they were happiest, when she held his face and said she liked his smile the most. But now she didn't even want to look at him. No matter how good he smiled now, he wouldn't get her liking anymore. No, he had never made her like him before. That's right, so dad, you have to smile more. Do whatever mom likes, only then will you get her to like you. Xiao Qingzhe accepted the teaching humbly. Dad understands now, thank you teacher little Qing. Qing Liqui also felt she had succeeded very much as a little teacher. She put the last bite of cake into her mouth as a reward for herself. Xiao Qingzhe asked her, do you want another piece? Qing Liqui shook her head. No more. I like sweet things, but I can't eat too much. Mom said it's bad for the teeth. I want white, neat, orderly teeth. Looking at the little young Mrs. serious manner, she really had educated her very well. What are you going to do with mom this weekend? Xiao Qingzhe passed the water to her mouth. Kong Yi-chan said little kids like to go to amusement parks. Qing Liqui drank a big gulp through the straw and thought of what she was going to do this weekend. This weekend is Shiran dad's birthday. Li Peifeng uncle said he wants to throw a party for Shiran dad. She leaned in secretively toward Xiao Qingzhe and said, I prepared a surprise for Shiran dad. The delight in her brows and eyes, Xiao Qingzhe asked, little Liqui really likes Shiran? Qing Liqui didn't hesitate at all. I like him a lot. Shiran dad is so nice to me, buys me yummy food, buys me all kinds of toys. He plays the piano so amazing. Qing Liqui thought of something else. Shiran dad tells the best stories. After he finishes telling me stories every time, I sleep and have beautiful dreams. Xiao Qingzhe's heart felt sour, but he also knew he didn't have the right to be jealous. Dad plays the piano really well too, especially amazing. President Xiao praised himself for the first time ever. It wasn't very skilled, he even paused in the middle, but he was definitely more amazing than Shiran at piano. Really? When there's a chance, Dad will play for you. Okay. Qing Liqui clapped. From now on, Dad can call you at night and tell you stories, okay? Qing Liqui stopped clapping, a little hesitant. But Dad, I don't like Journey to the West, I like the stories your granddad tells, like Snow White, Frozen, The Princess and the Pea. And Dad doesn't tell stories as well as your granddad. Qing Liqui had no idea she had put another rock on her dad's already internally bleeding heart as she counted off her favorite fairy tales on her fingers. Dad can also tell those stories. Xiao Qingzhi took her hand. Dad told it badly last time because that was Dad's first time telling a story. Dad will definitely tell it very well next time. Qing Liqui was a little doubtful, because Grandpa could never tell stories well. But she obediently nodded her head. If Dad's not busy at night, you can tell me stories. From now on, Dad won't be busy. Qing Liqui replied, then when I want to listen to stories later, I'll call Dad. Okay. Xiao Qingzhi spoke solemnly. Wu Lin silently turned around to look out the window, pretending not to hear the conversation between father and daughter. She felt that if Xiao Qingzhi had paper and a pen in front of him right now, he would take it without hesitation and write a whole contract of promises, promising he wouldn't be busy at night, promising he would definitely tell good stories, then sign his name, stamp his seal, effective for preferably 10,000 years. Qing Liqui was full. She carefully wiped her mouth with a napkin. I'm done eating, Dad. Let's go buy some more cake. I want to bring some back for Mom, Grandma, and Nai to eat. Xiao Qingzhi picked her up from the chair with one arm and brought her to the display case. Wherever she pointed, he took that one. When Qing Liqui was done, Xiao Qingzhi took out a tiramisu from the case as well. Qing Liqui thought Dad wanted to eat this cake. Dad, do you like eating this cake? Xiao Qingzhi replied, your mom likes eating this the most. Qing Liqui was confused. Mom doesn't like eating this. I've never seen Mom eat this before. The ones I said earlier are what Mom likes to eat. Xiao Qingzhi's hand paused. He forced a smile and said, then she must have liked it before but doesn't anymore now. It's okay, Dad. Just remember what Mom likes to eat now. Okay. Dad remembered everything little Liqui said just now. Xiao Qingzhi didn't hand Qing Liqui over to Wu Lin, but drove with her to Lanchuan. He really wanted to see her, and excuses were easy to find too, but he also knew she wouldn't want to see him. Little Liqui, Dad can't send you up. Go up with Wu Jijie to find Mom, okay? Okay, Dad. Qing Liqui couldn't wait to get out of the car. She missed her mom. What should we do with these stuffed animals? Should Dad help you bring them up? Xiao Qingzhi didn't hope for his daughter to say yes. Qing Liqui thought for a bit. Dad, can the stuffed animals stay in your car? I'll just bring one this time. Next time I see Dad, I'll take another one. That way, I'll be really happy after seeing Dad every time. Xiao Qingzhi gently stroked her hair. Our little Liqui is so smart. Qing Liqui gave Dad a big smile. Xiao Qingzhi watched Wu Lin bring Qing Liqui into the elevator and didn't leave. He took out his phone and dialed the number, hesitating for a few seconds before pressing down. The call connected very quickly. Hello, who is this? Her tone was answering an unfamiliar number. Xiao Qingzhi paused, then replied, it's me, Xiao Qingzhi. What's up? I brought little Liqui back to Lanchuan. Wu Lin took her up. They should get to your office soon. All right, thanks. Qing Jinlan was about to hang up after saying that. Xiao Qingzhi called out to stop her. Can I add you on WeChat? It'll be more convenient to contact each other about Qing Liqui's matters in the future. She had blocked him on WeChat who knows how many years ago. No need, Qing Jinlan put down her pen and tossed it onto the table. If you have anything in the future, contact Wu Lin directly. She will relay it to me. And, she warned him, if she doesn't actively look for you herself, you'd best not keep showing up in front of her. Mom. Qing Liqui ran into Qing Jinlan's office. I missed you so much. That's it. Qing Jinlan hung up Xiao Qingzhi's call and got up to welcome Qing Liqui. You're back so quickly? Haven't eaten dinner yet? Qing Jinlan held her as she sat down on the sofa. Saving your stomach to eat dinner with Mom? She pointed at the bag Wu Jijie was holding. I bought cake for Mom, Grandma, and Nai too. But Dad paid, I'll be able to buy with my own money after I start earning money. Qing Jinlan kissed her red little face. What a good daughter to mom. Qing Liqui climbed onto her mom's neck and whispered in her ear. Mom, Dad said he likes you and wants to get you to like him. He wants me to be his teacher because you like me the most. Qing Jinlan didn't care about these words. He had always been good at deceiving people, moreover deceiving a child. She changed the topic. Because Mom likes you the most, I'm taking you today to your favorite restaurant for a big meal, okay? Mom and Grandma have already said that we won't be going home for dinner tonight. Great! Qing Liqui immediately forgot who her dad was at the prospect of getting to eat something delicious. Tonight, Qing Liqui went out to eat a big dinner with her mom. When they got home, she was already sleepy. After Qing Jinlan gave her a bath and was halfway through drying her hair, she fell asleep. She didn't even think about asking her dad for a bedtime story. Xiao Qingzhe didn't get a phone call from his daughter that night. On Friday night, after eating dinner, Qing Liqui wanted to prepare a surprise for Xiao Dad and also forgot to call her dad for a bedtime story. He Wei had said it twice but her son didn't respond at all. She knocked on the table. Are you even listening to me? What are you daydreaming about? Let me tell you, don't brush me off. When your dad was your age, you were already working. You don't even look as good as 1/10 of your dad. Yet you're running a lousy company, working yourself to death. With the way you're working overtime every day, you'll probably go half-bald before you're 40. With your situation, which girl would be willing to marry you? If there's a girl you like, you have to take the initiative. Don't keep a straight face all day, you'll scare her away. Your dad loved to laugh and I love to talk, how did you end up with a face like a block of ice? I can't even get a full sentence out of you. It's just unbelievable. Even genetic mutations don't result in this. Because of you, I'm worried to death. Now I get more wrinkles on my face every month. When He Jiwei spoke, she hated being interrupted. Scolding her son, she wished she could talk for a whole day and night. Xiao Qingzhe put his phone down on the table, cutting off his mother before she could continue. There's a girl I like. I'm thinking about how to pursue her. He Jiwei already had the beginning of her next sentence on the tip of her tongue. Hearing her son say this, her expression instantly changed, as if she couldn't believe it. Really? You're not lying to me. Xiao Qingzhe stood up. I may not take after Dad in many ways, but lying is one thing I did inherit from him. He Jiwei also knew her son. If there was nothing going on, he wouldn't lie about it. Since he said it was true, then something must be up. She chased after him. Should I tell you how your dad pursued me back then? She was really worried that her son didn't know how to pursue girls. She was afraid that he already liked a girl so much, but the girl had no idea, and that would be a disaster. She was afraid the girl would end up holding hands and living happily ever after with someone else, while her son regretted it for the rest of his lonely life. No need. Xiao Qingzhe declined his mother's good intentions. All right, He Jiwei thought. He's right. If he needed his mother's help pursuing a girl at this age, then her son would be too hopeless. Still, she couldn't help worrying. If you like a girl, you have to smile at her more. Don't keep a straight face all the time, that won't work. Got it, Mom. It was rare for her son to respond so obediently. This convinced He Jiwei that it was true he had a girl he liked. Having a crush on someone would change his personality. Xiao Qingzhe stood by the window in the study, looking out into the night. He tried to smile but felt it was awkward, and eventually gave up. He called Shin Shiwen. Shin Shiwen was putting on a face mask. She answered vaguely, "What's up, Uncle Shinchuchi?" Although the godmother had hidden the fact that she gave birth and Shin Shiwen was quite angry about it, the gifts she gave to Shinchuchi were very generous. Her uncle must have had a hand in that. So Shin Shiwen had been quite attentive to her uncle these past few days, answering his calls almost right away. Xiao Qingzhe asked, "What is Shinchuchi doing tomorrow night?" He's going to a friend's birthday party. Shin Shiwen didn't want to bring up Shinchuki's dad, so she said it was a friend of Shinchuki's. You're busy these days. I happen to be free tomorrow night, so I'll take him there. Shin Shiwen was wary. She didn't want him to run into Shinchuki's dad. No need for that. You're a busy man. Every minute of your time must be worth tens or hundreds of thousands. I can't afford it. My assistant can handle it. Xiao Qingzhe replied, you don't have to keep hiding it. I already know who Shinchuki's dad is. And I'm not going to confront him tomorrow. His own situation was a mess right now. He was in no position to confront Li Peifeng, let alone after arguing with Qing Jinlan last time that he had no right to talk to Li Peifeng. Now in his current circumstances, he was even less qualified to talk to Li Peifeng. Then what do you want? Shin Shiwen wondered. He wasn't the type to give her son rides for no reason. Xiao Qingzhe lightly coughed. Little Liqui will probably be there tomorrow too. Shin Shiwen was silent for a second, then burst out laughing. President Xiao, you've changed. Missing your daughter must be eating away at you. You were stubbornly pretending last time, saying you were just being my escort to the Bai family's party. You were clearly hoping to see the young Miss Qing. The moment you returned to the country, you anxiously tried to get close to her. Hey, why don't you tell me, what did you do to wrong her back then? Let me think about it and see if there's still a chance to salvage things. That way, next time you want to see her, you won't have to use me or my son as an excuse. Xiao Qingzhe didn't take her teasing and simply said, didn't you want me to invest in your director friend's movie? Shin Shiwen had a director friend who was talented and had good scripts, but he was aloof and investments for his films kept falling through. His production plans kept getting delayed again and again. Of all Shin Shiwen's reliable contacts, Xiao Qingzhe was the only tycoon, but he wasn't interested in investing in films and had declined so far. Shin Shiwen immediately jumped up from the sofa and ripped off her face mask. It's a deal. You take Shinchuchi to his dad's place tomorrow night, and you can't go back on your word to invest in my friend's movie. Have your friend contact Kong Yi-chan tomorrow. Shin Shiwen just loved his decisive attitude. She kindly reminded him, brother-in-law, you have to be decisive like this in front of the young Qing miss too. Since you like her, you have to say it outright. Don't hide it or keep it to yourself, you know? Her reply was the sound of him hanging up. Shin Shiwen scad. He wanted to tear down the bridge before even crossing it. Here she was imparting the truths of love to him, but did he get it? The next day, Shinchuchi wore a little black suit with a black bow tie. His hair was styled up in a big pompadour with hair wax, looking very handsome. Though he was a little nervous. This was his first time riding with his uncle, and his uncle looked as stern as Qing Liqui's grandpa. Uncle, why do you have so many stuffed animals in your car? Shinchuchi started up a conversation. Could it be that his uncle, like Qing Liqui, also liked stuffed animals? Xiao Qingzhe's expressionless face looked up into the rearview mirror and he forced an awkward smile. Little Liqui likes stuffed animals. You can take some if you'd like. Seeing his serious uncle's smiling face, Shinchuchi was a little stunned. Somewhat shyly, he said to Xiao Qingzhe, Uncle, you look very nice when you smile, just like Qing Liqui. Xiao Qingzhe's smile became a little bigger. You're good friends with little Liqui? Shinchuchi nodded vigorously. We're super good friends. When we grow up, I'm going to be her groom. Xiao Qingzhe's smile froze. The car once again lapsed into silence. Shinchuchi still didn't sense anything wrong and continued, I've been saving up money for a long time now. In the future, I'm going to buy her the most beautiful wedding dress for her to wear. The corners of Xiao Qingzhe's mouth turned down. You're both still young. It's too early to talk about these things now. Shinchuchi shook his head. It's not early at all. Qing Liqui said some things require early planning. Hearing Qing Liqui said, Xiao Qingzhe's impending words were choked back. For the rest of the ride, Shinchuchi kept talking about his and Qing Liqui's plans for the future, starting every sentence with Qing Liqui said. Xiao Qingzhe's face visibly darkened until it was black as the bottom of a pot when they reached their destination. Read lat stchers on n/v/l/b.i.cm. Of course, seeing it was him who brought Shinchuchi, Li Peifeng's face wasn't very friendly either, but he endured and didn't let it get too unfriendly. Shin Shiwen had said not to pick up their son, so he assumed she was the one sending Shinchuchi over. He had even gone specially to the barber shop to get a haircut in preparation for today. He didn't expect it would be Xiao Qingzhe instead. One part of him thought the Xiao family were not good people. He had to draw a clear line with Xiao Qingzhe. Another part thought Xiao Qingzhe would be his uncle-in-law in the future. He was the godmother's own son. He was a big mountain he would have to get over in order to marry Shin Shiwen. Li Peifeng pulled Chen Chuchi to his side and said, neither shady nor straightforward, thanks for bringing him over. Xiao Qingzhe replied, it was no trouble. He just wanted to punch you, but he couldn't punch the son, so he could only punch the dad. Chen Chuchi was pulled inside by his dad. He looked back at Xiao Qingzhe and said, Uncle, aren't you coming in? Qing Liqui is here too. He immediately covered his mouth after saying that. His mom said not to tell other people for now that Qing Liqui's dad was his uncle. Xiao Qingzhe declined, I won't go in. He only wanted to catch a glimpse of Qing Liqui from afar. He didn't want to annoy her. She had told him not to keep hovering around her, so he wouldn't hover. Qing Liqui was carried out of the car by Xiao Dad. She was hugging a box, which contained a surprise gift for Xiao Dad. Qing Jinlan was on the phone, gesturing for them to go inside first. Xiao Qingzhe leaned back in his seat, feeling irritable. He had no cigarettes on hand to help him relieve this irritation. He was trying to quit smoking. He thought quitting would be easy, just like how he once thought getting over her would be easy. Their separation at the time had been so sudden. That period of darkness was something he seldom looked back on. Now she wasn't with Shiran, she still said he deceived her. He could feel her hatred towards him, not only because he didn't say he was Xiao Qingzhe's grandson, he suspected there was another hidden reason. He was also afraid he was being overly sensitive. Qing Jinlan had just hung up the phone when she noticed the person sneakily taking photos in the corner. She quickly walked over, it didn't matter if she was photographed, she didn't want Qing Liqui to be photographed as well. Someone behind her brushed past her shoulder and strode forward, grabbing that person. Xiao Qingzhe pinned down the person secretly taking photos with one hand and snatched the camera from him with the other hand, passing it to Qing Jinlan behind him. Qing Jinlan took the camera and flipped through the photos inside. The paparazzo became anxious. These were photos he had finally managed to sneak today after much difficulty. He had originally been completely immobilized by Xiao Qingzhe, but in his anxiety, he suddenly erupted with strength, freeing his hand from Xiao Qingzhe's grip. His hand formed a fist and swung towards Xiao Qingzhe. Xiao Qingzhe could have easily avoided it, but he suppressed his instinctive reaction and did not move or dodge. The fist collided with his cheekbone with a loud slap, making everyone who heard it wince. At least the paparazzo thought it should hurt a lot. He looked at his own fist, then at the red swelling on the corner of Xiao Qingzhe's eye, somewhat dumbfounded. Since when did he become so fierce that, based on his many years of fighting experience, he could tell that Xiao Qingzhe's initial move to subdue him had left him no chance to counterattack whatsoever. He didn't even know how he had broken free and landed a punch on his face. Why did he feel like Xiao Qingzhe had gone easy on him? Why would he go easy on him? The paparazzo looked at Xiao Qingzhe, his eyes filled with grief and indignation. He wouldn't be trying to scam him, right? Where's the justice in this, when he's the one doing something illegal like sneaking photos, yet he doesn't even have money to be scammed out of? Xiao Qingzhe looked at Qing Jinlan with his swollen eye corner and asked her, did you get anything? There were some photos of Shiran hugging Qing Liqui from behind. Qing Jinlan removed the memory card from the camera, glanced over him without pausing on his face, and just asked the paparazzo, do you have any other photos? The paparazzo wilted. No, I only started following today. How unlucky, to get caught right on his first job. Qing Jinchuan had noticed the situation here as soon as he got out of the car. He slammed the car door shut and strode over in 3 quick steps. Why are you everywhere? Qing Jinchuan's tone towards Xiao Qingzhe was very unfriendly. The paparazzo panicked, thinking he was talking to him. This paparazzo, known in the circle as Brother K, had followed and photographed Qing Jinchuan for a period of time before, trying to substantiate a scandal between Qing Jinchuan and a female celebrity. But he didn't get the photos he wanted and had been caught red-handed by Qing Jinchuan at the time. Qing Jinchuan had warned him then not to appear in front of him a second time. He didn't recognize Xiao Qingzhe, since Xiao Qingzhe had never appeared in public before. He assumed him to be a new bodyguard hired by the Qing family, so he didn't take him seriously. But he was familiar with Qing Jinchuan's methods, and knew that the eldest Qing son was all smiles on the surface but ruthless underneath. He hadn't wanted to take this job, but the price offered was too high while he was desperate for money. He never expected to be so unlucky as to get caught again so quickly. Qing Jinchuan probably wouldn't let him off easy this time. Should he give up the camera and run? At least he had to get away from Qing Jinchuan. His mind raced to assess the situation, then he took a deep breath and mustered all his strength to charge recklessly at Xiao Qingzhe. Brother K was half a head shorter than Xiao Qingzhe, so his head rammed right into Xiao Qingzhe's nose bridge. Xiao Qingzhe only felt his nose go sour as a stream of warmth flowed from his nose. He had to lift his head up to prevent the nosebleed from continuing downward. This was the moment Brother K had been waiting for. He wanted to break free while Xiao Qingzhe was distracted, but Qing Jinlan stuck at her foot and tripped him up before he could escape. Xiao Qingzhe easily grabbed hold of him with one hand again. Seeing this, Qing Jinchuan couldn't help but mutter inwardly that they coordinated quite seamlessly, though they were useless for letting a single person break free and injuring themselves in the process, requiring his own sister to step in to assist. He felt it was pathetic. He nudged Xiao Qingzhe with his shoulder, taking Brother K from his hand. "That's enough, let go. Don't get involved with our family affairs in the future. You're useless in helping yet liable to scam us instead. Men understand men best." Qing Jinchuan had witnessed Xiao Qingzhe's skills before. Even if 2 more Brother Ks came at him, they probably wouldn't get near his body. For him to get a swollen face and bloody nose now, Qing Jinchuan knew he must be plotting something. At this time, Brother K finally cleared his muddled head and realized he was trying to scam the Qing family, not scam me. "The Changs are loaded!" Xiao Qingzhe had to turn aside to stop his bleeding nose. He had anticipated Brother K's actions but didn't expect his head to be so hard. The blood was flowing heavily, so he lifted his head higher. The sunlight was glaring. He peered at the people around him through half-closed eyes. "Lower your head." The cold voice rang out beside him. Xiao Qingzhe glanced over, a barely noticeable gleam in his dark pupils. Qing Jinlan was impatient. "Lower your head and pinch your nose." "All right." Xiao Qingzhe did as she instructed. Qing Jinlan took out a pack of tissues from her bag and threw it to him. "Go to the hospital in 10 minutes if it doesn't stop bleeding." Her voice held not an ounce of warmth or excess words. Xiao Qingzhe gripped the pack of tissues. "Okay," he responded gently. Qing Jinchuan couldn't stand watching this anymore. He said to Qing Jinlan, "You go on ahead first. I'll handle the rest here." Qing Jinlan had no worries with Qing Jinchuan present. She handed him the camera and walked towards the restaurant entrance. After Qing Jinlan entered the restaurant, Qing Jinchuan released his hold on Brother K. Brother K didn't expect to be let go. He had just tried to run when Xiao Qingzhe, who was tending to his nose, blocked him from behind. The 2 men, who were usually at odds, became perfectly in sync at this moment. By now, Brother K realized that even without them restraining him, he couldn't escape now. Both men were over 6 feet tall, one in front and one behind, leaving him boxed in like a trapped chick, only able to gasp for breath against the wall. Qing Jinchuan lit a cigarette and held it in his mouth. "Speak. I'm still in a mood to talk nicely now. Who gave you this job?" Brother K wiped the sweat from his face. "I really don't know. As you know, those of us in this line get jobs and money through middlemen. The price offered was high this time, just to follow and photograph your second sister's daughter." Hearing this, both men's expressions chilled. "Who's the middleman?" Xiao Qingzhe asked sharply. Nothing left to hide at this point, Brother K told the truth. "I only know his name as Demang, definitely not his real name. He always contacts me for jobs via texts from different numbers." Hearing this name, Xiao Qingzhe's brow twitched slightly. Qing Jinchuan noticed it. Since they couldn't get any more useful information out of Brother K, he waved for his driver to come take the man to the police station. "You know this Demang?" Qing Jinchuan asked. "I've dealt with him once." Qing Jinchuan's eyebrows twisted into a knot as he gnashed his teeth and said resentfully, "Don't tell me it's your Xiao family who got Demang to take these photos and you're just pretending to be good now." "Impossible," Xiao Qingzhe stated firmly. "How do you know? What despicable things can your family not do?" Xiao Qingzhe replied, "Demang is at odds with the Xiao family. Even if they needed someone, they wouldn't use Demang." T from N0/V/LBN/.co/M. Qing Jinchuan gave a derisive snort. "The number of people at odds with your family really is substantial. I'll look into Demang. No need for you to handle it." Xiao Qingzhe's expression was solemn. "President Qing, this concerns little Liqui. We shouldn't quarrel over this. The sooner we find the person behind it the better." Qing Jinchuan gave a cold humph, which counted as acquiescing. If you can't find out anything by tomorrow morning, don't get involved with this anymore. Having said that, he left. Xiao Qingzhe threw the bloody tissues into the trash can, a ferocious chill lurking in his eyes as he dialed a number. Qing Liqui had eaten a large slice of cake after dinner, leaving her tummy a little bloated. It was past 9 o'clock, but she wasn't sleepy yet. Her mom was taking a bath while she sat on a blanket in the living room, playing with jigsaw puzzles. Her phone on the sofa suddenly vibrated. Qing Liqui ran over and was about to bring the phone to her mom when she saw the string of numbers on the screen. Her eyes curved into crescent moons as she tapped answer. "Daddy, you called mommy but I picked up. I knew it was you as soon as I saw the number." To present-day Qing Liqui, Xiao Qingzhe was more like an exciting new friend. She had become very curious about him and accepted him readily, but he didn't hold too much significance in her heart yet. She wouldn't miss him terribly if she didn't see him, just feel very happy when she did. Hearing her clear voice, Xiao Qingzhe's cold expression softened. "Little Liqui, what are you doing? Why aren't you asleep yet?" Qing Liqui patted her small tummy. "I ate too much tonight so my tummy feels bloated. I can't sleep. I'm playing with jigsaw puzzles." "What picture are you piecing together?" "A huge castle and a big grassy field." "Daddy, do you want to see?" "I can video call you." Qing Liqui wanted to share her masterpieces with her dad. "Daddy would love to see it." "I'll hang up first, then video call you, okay?" "Okay." Qing Liqui nodded happily. As soon as the video connected, Qing Liqui waved excitedly at the screen, then noticed her dad's red nose bridge. She peered closer at the screen. "Daddy, what happened to your nose?" The swelling around Xiao Qingzhe's eye had gone down after icing it and wasn't very noticeable anymore, but the bridge of his nose had taken a hard hit and would probably remain bruised for a day or two. He told Qing Liqui, "I bumped it by accident." Qing Liqui was very concerned. "Does it hurt, Daddy?" "Let me blow on it for you, blow on it and it won't hurt anymore." She then blew softly towards the phone screen twice. "Does it still hurt, Daddy?" Xiao Qingzhe's heart melted at her actions. After little Liqui blew on it, Daddy feels much better already. "It doesn't hurt at all now." Qing Liqui found it strange. "How did Daddy bump your nose?" She had bumped her legs and head before but never her nose. Xiao Qingzhe gave an awkward little cough and abruptly changed the topic. "Where's Mommy?" "What's Mommy doing?" "Daddy has something to discuss with her." "Mommy's taking a bath." Qing Liqui suddenly had a flash of inspiration and thought of something. She called Xiao Qingzhe in a very soft voice, "Dad." "Yeah, what's up?" "Daddy is here." She spoke so softly that Xiao Qingzhe thought she was going to tell him some secret. Qing Liqui's finger touched the red nose on the screen. "Dad, are you using a bitter trick? Did you deliberately bump your nose, and then want Mom to feel distressed for you?" When Grandpa wanted to coax Grandma, and Grandma didn't want Grandpa to coax her, Grandpa peeled an apple and cut his hand, bled, and deliberately turned in front of Grandma. After Grandma saw it, she immediately felt extremely distressed. Big Uncle said that Grandpa was using a bitter trick. "So, Dad, are you also using a bitter trick like Grandpa? Otherwise, how could an adult bump his nose like that?" Facing his daughter's sincere eyes, Xiao Qingzhe couldn't say a word. Qing Liqui could tell from her father's silence that she had guessed correctly. In a softer voice, she said, "Dad, I'll keep your secret. I'm really good at keeping secrets. I kept secrets for Uncle Tai and Grandpa. I have lots of secrets." Xiao Qingzhe gently replied, "Thank you, little Liqui, for keeping Dad's secret." Qing Liqui said, "You're welcome, Dad." She thought for a moment and decided she should remind Dad, "Dad, Mom is much smarter than me. If I could guess it, Mom can probably guess it too, right?" Xiao Qingzhe was silent for a moment before stiffly changing the subject again. "Little Liqui, do you want to hear a story? Dad will tell you a story, okay?" "Okay, Dad." Qing Liqui remembered her agreement with Dad to tell each other stories. "Wait, let me go back to my room and hug my teddy bear while I listen to the story." The camera shook as Xiao Qingzhe told her, "Walk slowly, no need to run." "I know." Qing Liqui yelled loudly to Dad, her mouth saying she understood but her little legs still running, dashing through the long hallway until the very end. She pushed open the door and climbed onto her pink princess bed, catching her breath. She held up her phone to show Dad, "Dad, look. The stuffed animal you bought me and the one Mom bought are sleeping together, keeping me company at night. I won't be scared of tigers anymore. The two little bears, one pink and one brown, lay side by side next to the pillow, arms linked. Xiaoqing's voice turned hoarse as he softly called out, "Little Liqui." He had wanted to ask if she missed him. He missed her so much. Just thinking that he had a daughter with her meant he couldn't sleep at night. But he changed his words to, "Little Liqui's room is so pretty." Qing Liqui puffed out her little chest proudly, chin up, very smug. "Dad, do you know? Mom is so amazing. I told Mom what kind of room I wanted and she gave me exactly the room I described. My mom is the most amazing mom in the world." Yes, Xiaoqing's gaze softened. She's the most amazing mom in the world. Qing Liqui held the phone with both hands, smiling and making eye contact with Dad on the screen. She loved hearing people say her mom was amazing. She lay back on the pillow, placing the phone between the two little bears. "Dad, let's not tell stories today. Will you sing for me instead?" Dad wasn't good at telling stories, but Dad's voice sounded nice. Singing would probably sound nice too. "Is there anything you want to hear?" Qing Liqui looked up at the little stars on the ceiling, thinking for a bit. "I want to hear Elsa's Let It Go." Xiaoqing's was silent again for a moment. On Qing Jinlan's advice, he had watched the movie and knew what song Qing Liqui meant. He was quite sure he couldn't hit those high notes. "How about Dad sing something else first? See if you like it?" "Okay, sure." Qing Liqui didn't insist on any particular song. Whatever Dad sang, she would listen. Outside the window was a quiet night. Inside, warm yellow light. The low humming slowly started, an unknown lullaby in some unrecognizable language. It had simple tones but sounded unexpectedly nice, full of magnetic vocals that carried a soothing power, like morning and evening waves lightly lapping the beach, or a summer breeze blowing through green waves of wheat. Qing Liqui's eyelids gradually grew heavy. She turned over, her little arms hugging both little bears to her chest, entering a deeper dreamland in her father's singing. Qing Jinlan pushed open the door and heard the low humming lullaby from the room. Her hand froze on the doorknob, her steps halted at the entrance, unable to proceed. New N0vel chapters are published on N0v/e/lb/in/co/m. The lullaby was ending and Xiaoqing's started over from the beginning. "Stop singing," she said coldly, interrupting him. The doorknob dug into her tightly clenched palm, but it didn't hurt. It was just enough to make her sober. "She's asleep." The singing stopped abruptly and the room became quiet. Qing Liqui made some soft mumbled laughs in her sleep, clearly having a sweet dream. The phone screen was face down on the bed. Xiaoqing's view was pitch black darkness. He couldn't see anything. This was the second time he had sung this lullaby. The first time was during a stormy night. They were stranded on an island due to the weather. She had woken up in the middle of the night, unable to fall back asleep because of the thunder. He held her in his arms, gently patting her back, clumsily humming a lullaby. Her ears were pressed to his chest, her arms around his waist, curled up against him like a lazy kitten, a rare moment of complete reliance on him. She listened to his heartbeat and fell back asleep. She seldom clung to him like that. Days of heavy rain left them isolated, even cell signals failed. They lived as if cut off from the world. He even thought that later, when they were old, they could find an obscure island and live there, sunrise and sunset, sea breeze and silver sand. Even in bad weather, she could still snuggle in his arms as he sang her lullabies. But then the storm stopped and Qing Jinlan called to say Ran had returned. They rushed back overnight. Everything happened so suddenly yet not suddenly. She found out his identity as a Xiao then, although he had never meant to hide it from her. She just never asked, so he clung to that thin thread of hope. When she found out, she was very calmly suggesting they break up. He agreed. Perhaps his surname being Xiao or not was irrelevant. With her personality, if she truly loved someone, old grievances might hinder them but wouldn't make her decisively end things without even trying. He had seen her smiling sweetly, eyes shimmering, as she practiced confessing to Ran. It was the first time he realized that cold and aloof girl could smile so sweetly thinking about confessing to her crush. She said she wanted to be together. He thought it was just a woman scorned finding comfort in his company since he happened to be there and was good enough for her eyes. She stated it very clearly that she disliked entanglements. If one day she suggested breaking up, that would be the end. Already thinking about breaking up before even starting, this was destined to be a short-lived relationship. She said break up, he accepted. He could be her distraction but wouldn't cling if she saw him as one. Later, when his sister passed away, he no longer cared about the Xiao family mess. He went abroad directly. Before leaving, Li Peifeng and the others wanted to see him off with drinks. He accepted drinks from everyone that night, unusually willing to get drunk to numb his nerves. He preferred to stay sober and in control. That night was an exception. The dreamscape had felt so real. Waking up the next morning to crisp clean sheets, for a moment he felt annoyed without knowing why, whether it was annoyance at a disappearing erotic dream or at himself for having such a dream. His finger hovered over her name on his favorites list, hesitating to call. Later, when Li Peifeng's father became critically ill, he returned to visit him at the hospital. In the hallway, he saw her walking into a patient's room with Sharan. On impulse, he followed them and saw her take out a marriage certificate to show Sharan's mother. In that moment, he felt how ridiculous he was to not want to hear even a word about her from others after that. He sealed her away in the past for years after, cutting off all contact. But now, he regretted not making that call that morning. If he had, would everything have been different? Qing Jinlan strode to the bedside in 2 or 3 steps, picking up the phone, about to hang up. She didn't expect it to be a video call and was taken aback seeing the profound eyes on the screen. Xiao Qingzhe was also startled for a second before immediately turning his head away, murmuring a soft sorry. She had just finished showering, only wearing a champagne-colored silk slip dress. Her long black hair like seaweed draped over her shoulders, covering large areas of exposed skin but unable to hide the glistening collarbones. Under the light, her neckline resembled a pool of spring water, so fair it dazzled the eyes. Qing Jinlan glared at him resentfully, about to tap end call when he spoke up again, brows and eyes lowered, only the red nose facing the screen. I called to talk about the paparazzi incident today. Qing Jinlan stopped her hand and angled the camera at the floor, walking out of Qing Liqui's bedroom and closing the door. Speak. Do you have an employee named Chao Yenshin at your hotel? Yes. Chao Yenshin was the one arrested for sexual harassment of a server. She had a deep impression of him as it was the first such incident at her hotel. He hired the stalker. He recently latched onto a rich woman. Qing Jinlan understood. Back then it had been a huge scandal. Surname Chao must resent her and wanted to stir up trouble using Qing Liqui now that he had backing. Xiao Qingzhe went on, I've already had someone handle it. Qing Jinlan gave a curt thanks, polite yet distant. It's what I should do. Xiao Qingzhe paused briefly before tentatively continuing, meow meow, I. Qing Jinlan's even voice suddenly turned sharp as she urgently cut him off. Don't call me that, Xiao Qingzhe. In the past, she didn't like drinking odd concoctions or coffee, only water. On a whim, he gave her this weird nickname, calling her that intimately at times. Qing Jinlan hated him using that name now. All right, I won't call you that, but I want to discuss that night with you. Afraid she would hang up, he continued without waiting for a response. I just want to say one thing. That night I was drunk but I didn't see you as just anyone. I thought it was a dream with the real you, and only because it was you would I dream something like that. If I had known it was real, I definitely would have. Qing Jinlan no longer kept the camera aimed at the floor. She held up her phone, looking at the screen, eyes cold and contemptuous without concealment. You make it sound so much like you still care for me. Qing Liqui gave a cold laugh. Of course, you must like me. Being with me will make your old man furious enough to have smoke coming out of his 7 orifices. I don't think anyone else could have this effect on him. Am I right, Xiao Qingzhe? Xiao Qingzhe's eyebrows froze for a moment as he thought of where those words came from. The morning after getting drunk, the old master had a sudden whim to invite him for morning tea at a local old tea house that he went to at least 3 times a week. The headache from the hangover made his head feel like splitting, so drinking tea and having some hot soup was actually a pretty good cure for the alcohol. He thought the old master had called him over just to lecture again about those dog-stirring business tactics, but instead he asked why he was provoking the young miss of the Qing family. It was no surprise that the old master knew the people who occasionally hung around Xiao Qingzhe were, other than Xiao Zhongting's people, the old master's sentries. He gulped down half a cup of hot tea and casually brushed it off, anything that displeases you, esteemed elder, I don't mind doing over and over again. As for second uncle, whatever I do, he believes it, falling in love is just one thing, and I can lead him by the nose for it. Why wouldn't I take this opportunity? He asked, were you there at the time? Qing Jinlan was indifferent. Does that matter? He said, I can explain. No need, Qing Jinlan didn't need to hear an explanation, she just asked him, can you say that you've never had such thoughts before, or that you've never taken advantage of me even once? Xiao Qingzi replied, I can. But he knew she wouldn't believe him after hearing the words from his own mouth with her own ears. It was impossible for her to trust him again. Qing Jinlan gave a mocking laugh. You think I'd believe you again? She had wanted to directly hang up the call, but still couldn't contain her anger. Xiao Qingzi, I knew from the very beginning which Xiao family you belonged to. She knew, yet she had tacitly allowed his overtures. She had given him a deadline to come clean, but from beginning to end he had never mentioned a word. In the end, it was through someone else's mouth that she learned of this fact. Even when she brought up separating, he was unruffled, simply saying okay, and not another word more. It seemed this was a predetermined ending. He had foreseen it early on, or rather, this ending had been in his plans from the start. If it wasn't for his sister's departure interrupting his plans, the Xiao family would have been wrapped around his finger years ago. She should praise his cunning, using her to pull the wool over the Xiao family patriarch's eyes, using her on one hand to anger the old master, and on the other hand to lower second Uncle Xiao's guard, making them think he was just a profligate son only greedy for love, with no interest in competing for power, who didn't know how to delight the old master and just wanted to oppose the old master out of a little grievance, completely controlled by his own emotions. Naturally, they wouldn't think someone so incompetent was worth their effort to plot against. He had always known how to act. He could fool the Xiao family patriarch, he could fool Xiao Zhongting father and son, and he could also fool her. She hadn't wanted to ask these things or say them. Her self-esteem didn't allow it. But what right did he have to keep playing the role of a man passionately in love after using her? It was extremely hypocritical. Qing Jinlan hung up the call, still unsatisfied, and blocked his number. She admitted she was being petty. She rarely ever blocked anyone, he was the first, and she didn't mind him being the second either. Early the next morning, Qing Jinlan told her parents the truth about who Qing Liqui's father was. She had always been unsure of how to broach the subject before. Strangely, last night's phone call had given her courage. She might as well get it over with since sticking her head out was just asking to get chopped either way. She explained the past affair in a few words, skipping over Xiao Qingzi's deception, only saying they had parted because they each felt unsuitable. After hearing it all, Qing Shanhe only said one thing, Liqui's surname is Qing. She's my Qing family's most treasured granddaughter. You and her have the Qing family behind you. As for who her father is, or what his surname is, it's unimportant. You only need to know that if anyone dares bully you, it's the same as opposing the entire Qing family. Qing Jinlan's eyes grew damp. After Qing Shanhe left, Fei Zuhui sat down in front of her and gave her a scolding look. I thought you'd never tell us about this in your whole life. Qing Jinlan was somewhat startled as she looked at Fei Zuhui. Mom, you guys knew already? When she had been with Xiao Qingzi, you could say it was a secret affair no one around her had known, she hadn't introduced him to any of her friends, and Xiao Chuan had only found out later. Fei Zuhui stroked her loose hair hanging by her ear. When it comes to you, how could your dad not investigate everything clearly? Do you think the chaos in the Xiao family all these years, and the obstacles your brother secretly arranged for the Xiao family, could have happened without your dad's tacit approval? He facilitated it. Qing Jinlan looped her arm around Fei Zuhui's and leaned on her shoulder. To outsiders she could be strong and decisive, but in front of her parents she was still a little girl who wanted to act cute. I'm sorry, Mom, for worrying you. Silly girl, what do you have to be sorry for? No matter who you fall for, falling in love itself isn't wrong, nor are the feelings it brings you wrong. As for the results it leads to, do you regret having Liqui? Of course not. Qing Jinlan hurriedly sat up straight and looked steadily at Fei Zuhui. Her gaze was firm. That's right. You have a lovely daughter, and we have a precious granddaughter. As for everything else, I won't judge that. Xiao Qingzi, falling in and out of love is natural, and a past parting should teach you to view matters of the heart more cautiously in the future. That's a good thing, and shouldn't keep you stuck in the past. I wanted to talk to you about this long ago. You should go out and date, meet some nice boys, eat meals together, go on dates. If you don't like older ones, try younger ones, don't just keep going around the hotel. Fei Zhuhui had originally looked favorably on Xiao Chuan. The two had been close since childhood. In the last stretch of Xiao Chuan's mother's life, she had constantly worried over his future marriage. His father passed early, and she had single-handedly raised him, so his marriage and having children was her greatest wish. But the cancer cells had spread too quickly, leaving no time at all. She definitely wouldn't live to see grandchildren. Qing Jinlan had helped fulfill her dying wish, letting her close her eyes in peace. At first Fei Zhuhui had felt they were messing around, but later thought it wouldn't be bad if the act became real. She had watched Xiao Chuan grow up and knew him inside and out. His conduct, looks, everything was top-notch, and Qing Liqui liked him, too. But over these years there had been no progress between the two, and she didn't hold out hope any longer. "I know, Mom. I'm hungry, let's go eat." Qing Jinlan hugged Fei Zhuhui as they walked out of the study. She knew her mom had been restraining herself from urging her over the years. Today she finally had a chance, and Qing Jinlan couldn't let her keep going or she'd never stop. "I'm serious about this. There are advantages to younger ages. Sister Chun's younger sister has a son your age who graduated from the same school as you. He's a lawyer, for years younger than you. I've seen pictures, he looks really good. Do you want to meet him?" Qing Jinlan exaggerated her reaction. "For years younger? Mom, you really dare to think of it. 3 years age difference is already a generation gap, and 4 more years. Are you trying to find me a boyfriend or a little boy to play with? Let me make this clear first, I don't like little puppies or wolf cubs. Even if you want to introduce someone, they should at least be the same age." Qing Liqui was standing at the top of the stairs and happened to overhear this sentence. She looked up and asked, "Mommy, what do white little puppies and little wolf cubs look like?" Qing Jinchuan couldn't help himself from enlightening his niece. Qing Jinlan had already shot him a piercing glare. "Qing Jinchuan, shut your mouth." Qing Liqui said to her mommy, "Grandma said big uncle knows everything except how to shut up." Qing Jinchuan laughed heartily. "Little Liqui, let uncle teach you another idiom, there's no one who knows a child better than their mother. It means that of everyone under heaven, mothers rank first in understanding their children." Qing Liqui asked, "Then who understands daughters the best?" Qing Jinchuan pinched her little nose. "Still the mother, of course." Qing Liqui agreed. "Mommy always knows what I like to eat the most." At her current age she had learned to generalize and draw connections. "Uncle, there's no one who knows a child better than their mother has the same meaning as what you said before about grandma knowing what fart you let out as soon as you lift your butt, right?" At this point Fei Zhuhui couldn't hold back either, and went to hit her son for saying such things in front of a child and teaching her bad habits. The solemn confession that morning ended with Qing Jinchuan scrambling to flee like dogs and chickens. When Qing Jinlan reached the office door, Tang Yicheng was standing outside waiting for her. She noticed his expression was a bit strange, almost like constipation. She asked, "Did something happen?" Tang Yicheng reported in a low voice, eyes constantly glancing toward the conference room. "Boss Cheng, President Zhou from Changyun is here. He's in the conference room right now." As soon as Qing Jinlan heard, her footsteps changed direction. Why did President Zhou come at this time? Did he say what it was about? Changyun was one of Lanzhao's major clients. They held all receptions for Changyun's A-level clients at Lanzhao. But for work matters, they were usually handled by the staff below. There was no need for Zhouwen to come personally, especially this early in the morning. Tang Yicheng followed behind Qing Jinlan, gritting his teeth to quickly add, President Xiao from Qingmiao Capital also came with him. Tang Yicheng had just confirmed that the Xiao Qingze he saw in the parking lot was the head of Qingmiao Capital and the Xiao family business empire, and even more importantly, the man who had an entanglement with his boss. Qing Jinlan's steps slowed. The formerly mild expression on her face was replaced with coldness, though when the conference room door opened her eyes filled with smiles again. She greeted Zhouwen, "Brotherin, what brings you here this early?" Zhouwen was the same age as Qing Jinchuan, childhood friends from the same preschool. New N0vel chapters are published on N0v/e/lb/in/co/m. Zhouwen smiled as he stood up, half joking and half serious, "Of course I came to bring business opportunities to Boss Cheng." He introduced the man beside him first. "Xiao Qingze." Then he clapped Xiao Qingze on the shoulder. "Qing Jinlan, the general manager of Lanzhao." Xiao Qingze reached out his hand, a standard business etiquette, as if the two were meeting for the first time. "Mr. Cheng, hello, I'm Xiao Qingze." Qing Jinlan just nodded slightly, did not shake hands, but her smile remained unchanged. Mr. Xiao is good. Zhou, seeing the storm brewing between the two, did not say much and went straight to the point. Our Changyun and Qiangmia want to co-host a small summit, tentatively scheduled for early June, and the invited guests are quite important. The reception standards are very high, and the time is also urgent. We want to set it at your lawn, Chuan. I wonder if your side can arrange it. It wasn't a big deal that he, the old boss, had to come in person to say this. Naturally, it couldn't be declined, let alone anything good to decline. No problem, Brother Zhou, then let Cheng and June discuss the details later? June is busy with other cases. This time Qiangmio is the main contact person. Let old Xiao explain the specifics to you. I have to go downstairs first to get some breakfast. I left home too hurriedly this morning and didn't even eat breakfast. I'm starving. After speaking, he didn't look at Qing Jinlan's reaction and pulled Tangy Cheng out. Assistant Tang, I still have to trouble you to take me there. How could it be easy for him to be pulled over by Xiao Qingze so early in the morning to do this kind of thing? Where would he have thought that these two people had past involvement, the Qing family and the Xiao family? He thought the two families wanted to die without seeing each other again. If Qing Jinchuan knew that he was working with Xiao Qingze, he would have to torment him to peel off a layer of skin before it could be over. If it wasn't for the sake of the new project, where the Xiao family gave him 3% of the profit, he wouldn't have done this tactless thing. Only two people were left in the conference room. Qing Jinlan threw her bag on the conference table, the metal chain collided with the tabletop, making a crisp sound, demonstrating that the owner's patience had reached its limit. She asked him, "What exactly do you want to do?" Going through so much trouble, and bringing Zhou along, she really didn't know what else they had to talk about. Xiao Qingze wanted to do a lot, but he had to make his position clear first. Even though words were the most pale now, at least he had to say it out. I know that no matter what I say now, you won't believe it, but in my almost 30 years of life, I've only had that time with you. Before you, and after you, I never thought about taking the initiative to get close to anyone again. I admit that at first I didn't say I was from the Xiao family, I did harbor some false hopes. I just didn't want a surname to cut off the possibility between us. I never thought about using you, or using our relationship to do anything. Even if I don't like the old master again, and I'm at odds with him again, I would never take my own feelings to spite him and use tricks. He's not worth it, and I'm not that stupid. For me, the Xiao group really isn't that important. The reason I wanted to compete with my second uncle at the time was first, my father left a will saying that the Xiao group was founded by my grandmother and the old master together, and it was unreasonable for it to benefit others in the end. Second, only by becoming the decision-maker of the Xiao family would I have a chance to stand in front of your father and talk about the grievances between our two families, and talk about our future. As for that morning, I didn't need to bare my inner feelings to someone I didn't care about at all and have him listen. Because he would never understand. If I provoked a girl, it was only because I liked her and wanted to get her attention. It had nothing to do with gains and losses. The air condensed into a deathly silence. Over the years, he was used to giving orders and rarely explaining anything to others, let alone such a long confession. He didn't feel it when he was saying it, only feeling somewhat uncomfortable after finishing speaking. His hand unconsciously stroked the back of the chair. Qing Jinlan across from him had a taut face and was expressionless. It was a reaction that was to be expected. Xiao Qingze was also in no hurry to resolve or facilitate anything. There was too much dust accumulated in the old stories, and it had to be brushed away bit by bit before the sunshine could be seen again. Some things have to be taken slowly, no rushing. In recent days, Tangy Cheng's life has been a bit bitter. It's not really bitter, just tiring, mentally tiring. The main reason is the small summit Qingyun is organizing. In fact, it's not a big deal at all. In terms of scale, Lanzhou hosts so many conferences and events every year that are even larger than this one. You say the timeline is tight, but there are many with even tighter timelines. 5-star hotels focus on service. Whatever requirements the client raises, no matter how difficult, they can make it happen. After being tempered over so many years, Lanzhou's conference department has seen all kinds of storms. A small summit won't make them lose their composure. They haven't lost their composure, but they have a sword hanging over their heads, for no other reason than the silence of 3 bosses in the temporarily created work group. To explain this, we have to go back to a few days ago, when Tangy Cheng took Long Yan's Zhou director to the restaurant and arranged a special server for him before returning upstairs to the office. Director Zhou didn't ask him to have breakfast with him, he just wanted to keep him out of the conference room. But before Tangy Cheng could even sit down properly at his desk, he saw the door to the small conference room open and Director Cheng come out. Her high heels sank into the thick shag carpet without a sound, and her face was as calm as ever. Seeing this, Tangy Cheng thought the two must have had a relatively smooth talk. "Call the conference department people up to discuss the summit with Xiao Zong," said Cheng Jinlan, stopping in front of him. "Okay, Director Cheng," Tangy Cheng replied. His eyes inadvertently saw Director Cheng's white knuckles gripping her purse strap, and Tangy Cheng realized things had not gone well. Although Director Cheng always gave a sense of distance, and her work requirements were extremely high, she was a very emotionally stable person. Only after entering society and starting work did he realize what a fortunate thing it was to have a leader with such emotional stability. But no matter how stable one is, there are always moments of fluctuation, just not very noticeable on the surface. Having worked with Director Cheng for a few years, Tangy Cheng was somewhat familiar with her little habits. When she was especially upset inside, her fingers would unconsciously tap the table. When her mind wandered during meetings, her hands would caress the water glass. When she was extremely disgusted with someone but had to deal with them, her smile would become more pronounced. It looked like she was listening carefully to the other person, when in fact she hadn't heard a word. In the current situation, judging by the whiteness of her knuckles, she must have been extremely angry, so there was only one conclusion: the talk had collapsed. He led the conference department manager into the conference room. Xiao Zong had his hand resting on a chair, looking out the window, with no visible abnormality on his face. Tangy Cheng secretly wondered to himself that these two really matched well, both very good at hiding their emotions, making it impossible to see what they were thinking. The people from the Lanzhou conference department and the project leaders from Longyun didn't know the twists and turns involved. They were racking their brains figuring out a project the bosses were personally overseeing, needless to say how important it was. They were giving it 120% every day, agonizing over every sentence they posted in the group. The person in charge from Qianmiao, Wu Tongtong, was also nervous, but more excited, because when her boss Alex handed her this job, he said one thing: this project was related to their boss's happiness in the second half of his life. With that icy face of their boss that no one dared get near, she had thought he would just end up dying alone in the second half of his life. She never imagined there could be a happy life, so she carefully observed everyone's profile picture in the group, still unable to figure out who could bring happiness to her boss. Cheng Jinlan leaned back in her chair, lost in thought. The May weather was already like midsummer, the sunlight outside scorching and dazzling. She hadn't been sleeping well these past few days, dreaming a lot at night but unable to remember the dreams when she woke up. Sleeping was tiring, and not even coffee could rouse her spirits. That day, after hearing what he said and looking into his pitch-black eyes, anger suddenly rose in her heart. She had spent a long time convincing herself to accept a fact, and now he was telling her that fact was wrong. The words came out of his mouth, so whether black or white, it was naturally all up to him. She never knew he was so eloquent when they were together before. He had always been so silent. She came out of the conference room and told herself not to believe his words. Even if he came to Lanzhou for 10 more conferences, it didn't matter. The work could be handled by the staff below. She didn't want to have any more contact with him. Her phone on the desk vibrated and rang, but she didn't look to see who was calling and just let it vibrate. She was feeling a little lazy and didn't want to answer it. Today was the second day of her period. Her stomach felt uneasy and the discomfort couldn't be relieved even with hot water. She also wasn't used to taking medicine. The vibration had just stopped for a second before starting up again. She was afraid it might be a call from Qing Liqui's teacher about something, so she picked up the phone and saw it was Jiang Meng. "Not bad, you actually remembered to call me. I thought you'd be stuck in your husband's tender loving care, unable to get out," Cheng Jinlan said lazily and mockingly. Jiang Meng was Cheng Jinlan's college classmate. Cheng Jinlan didn't study abroad for college, but went south domestically instead, as she preferred China over overseas. She was rather cold in temperament, liked being alone, and didn't actively make friends. But she couldn't resist Jiang Meng's warm and outgoing personality, and Jiang Meng was one of Cheng Jinlan's few close female friends in college. She had gotten married at the beginning of the year and was still in the honeymoon phase of her new marriage. Jiang Meng laughed. "Of course I called because I missed you. No matter how good my husband's tender loving care is, it's not as important as my good sister." Cheng Jinlan scoffed at her conscienceless words. "Go on, what's the matter? If you didn't have anything going on right now, there's no way you'd think to call me." Jiang Meng didn't beat around the bush. She was pregnant, just diagnosed at 3 weeks. She couldn't wait 3 months to share this good news, so the first thing she did was call Cheng Jinlan. Cheng Jinlan was very surprised. She knew how much Jiang Ming loved kids, and because of this good news, the discomfort in her body had lessened considerably. The two chatted on the phone for almost half an hour. As someone who had been through it before, Qing Jinlan told Jiang Ming a lot of things to pay attention to during pregnancy and asked if she had any reactions yet. Jiang Ming said, "Nothing else, just sometimes I really crave a certain food. Do you remember our freshman year winter break, when I went home with you and you took me to eat at that private kitchen, the time I was going to confess to Shiran but didn't succeed? We ate that spicy fried pork dish, and now I suddenly really want to eat it. It's so strange, it's been so many years, yet I still remember that taste." She pretended to be heartbroken. "It must be because Shiran left too big a scar on my heart." Qing Jinlan knew her last sentence was a joke. "Don't ever let your husband hear you say that, or he'll be so jealous the Yellow River will flood. It's simple if you want to eat that dish. Their peppers are homegrown, so I'll get some peppers and the recipe from the boss and send them to you. Have your husband try making it to see if he can recreate the taste." "You can do that?" Jiang Ming was about to shriek in excitement, showing just how much she wanted to eat it. "I can. That restaurant, Qing Jinchuan, is half owner." Qing Jinchuan loved good food. When he came across talented chefs who wanted to open their own restaurants but lacked funds, he liked helping them out a bit. The restaurant Jiang Ming mentioned was one he used to go to a lot, though it had been several years since he last went. Maybe it was because of Jiang Ming's call, but that restaurant appeared in Qing Jinlan's dream that night, or rather, what happened that day. During freshman year winter break, when Jiang Ming went home with her, Jiang Ming saw Shiran as soon as they put their luggage down. It was love at first sight for her, and she directly said men like Shiran, gentle yet with a hint of melancholy, were just her type. At that time, Jiang and Qing Jinchuan had just gotten together, so Shiran's melancholic air was naturally obvious. Rather than melancholy, it was more like heartbreak. Jiang Ming knew there was someone in Shiran's heart, but she didn't back down. In her opinion, as long as he was single, pursuing him wasn't against the law. She swore she would make him hers during this winter break, and talked big about it, but when it came time to actually confess, she lost her nerve and couldn't even speak coherently. Qing Jinlan helped organize all the things Jiang Ming had been chattering about Shiran in front of her into a script, giving her a model to follow so she'd know what to say when the time came. Everything was ready for Jiang Ming's confession, but Shiran had something come up at the last minute and didn't show up. Having something come up was just an excuse, backing out was the truth. Jiang Ming channeled her grief and anger into her appetite, devouring a plate of spicy fried pork, and forced Qing Jinlan to eat with her. After 2 plates of spicy fried pork, Jiang Ming had already put Shiran to the back of her mind. Jiang Ming's philosophy on love was that feelings come and go quickly, so why cling desperately to someone who doesn't reciprocate? There are so many men in the world, if one doesn't work out, there will always be another. No need to hang yourself on a crooked neck. After leaving the restaurant, both of their noses and eyes were red from the spicy food. Jiang Ming stood in front of the trash can, blowing her nose into tissues, while Qing Jinlan went to get the car. She had been really into Black Autos recently, and by chance an identical model was parked next to her car. She took an extra glance and saw the man leaning against the car door talking on the phone. He seemed to sense her gaze and looked up, their eyes meeting briefly before casually looking away again. Qing Jinlan got into her car and sat down, then looked out the window one more time. She had seen his background check on her father's desk before, though she didn't know exactly what grievances lay between their families, or why her father was investigating him. But in the business world, where there were alliances there was also opposition, and knowing yourself and knowing your opponent was never a bad thing. At the time she had only thought his eyes in the photo were too pretty, but seeing him in person let her know that a photo could only capture the shape of the eyes, not the spirit within them. Her memory of their first encounter gradually faded into a confused blur, with scene after scene flipping past as if turning pages in a book, until a wave of nausea in her stomach jolted her awake. Qing Jinlan woke with a start, while Qing Liqui had already been awake for a while, lying next to her mother quietly reading a fairy tale book. Seeing her mother wake up, her eyes curved into crescents and she rested her head on the pillow to talk to her mother. "Mama, you were talking in your sleep just now." Qing Jinlan pulled her into her arms, kissing the corner of her mouth. "What did Mama say?" "You called out Daddy's name." Qing Jinlan froze for a moment. Qing Liqui cupped her mother's face and asked, "Mama, do you miss Daddy?" "No, it was just a dream." Qing Jinlan stroked her hair. Read latest chapters at n/velbi.co/m. Qing Liqui didn't understand. Dreaming about someone meant you were thinking about them, right? When she missed her mother on business trips, she would dream about her mother and couldn't wait to see her after waking up. I thought you missed Daddy, so I called Daddy over. The doorbell ringing in the living room broke the quiet of the morning. Daddy is here. When Qing Liqui heard the doorbell, she jumped up from the bed. Mom, I told Daddy to bring your favorite chicken soup dumplings that you love to eat. I told Daddy to come quickly because Mom likes to eat the dumplings hot. They won't taste good when they're cold. Mom's stomach hurts for a few days every month, and when she's in pain she likes to eat the chicken soup dumplings from Maple Grandpa's house, the plump white dumplings that you can pop into your mouth hole and wash it down with a sip of the fresh chicken broth. Nothing tastes better. Qing Liqui thought about the taste and swallowed, slipping off the bed and running on her little legs to open the door for Dad. Qing Jinlan didn't even have time to stop her. She rolled over after getting out of bed and decided to just go with it instead of worrying about what was happening outside or what Liqui had said to him on the phone. She went straight to the bathroom without thinking about it any further. By the time she came out, the person who was supposed to come in had already entered. On the coffee table in the living room there were 2 large bags. Qing Liqui saw Mom come out and happily pointed to the bags. Mom, look, there are dumplings that you love to eat, shrimps and sesame balls that Grandma loves, soup dumplings that Grandpa loves, sticky rice and red dates cake that Auntie Chow loves, seafood congee that Uncle loves, and my most favorite custard buns. I asked Dad to buy them all. She looked a little pale, her hair was loosely tied up with a clip, which made her fair face look even smaller. Xiao Qingzi didn't mention what little Liqui had said to him on the phone, and gently asked her, not feeling well? Qing Jinlan took out her wallet and pulled out some banknotes. While Liqui was busy taking things out of the bags, not paying attention over here, she handed the money over to him. Tell Liqui you have something to do and have to go. Xiao Qingzi's hand reached over, but he didn't take the money. His fingertip brushed against the back of her hand, just for a moment, before quickly pulling away. Her hand was icy cold. Stomach hurts? She was usually fine, but would get cold hands and feet during those few days every month. Qing Jinlan's brows furrowed as she stuffed the money directly into his suit pocket, then took 2 steps back, putting a clear distance between them. No matter what Liqui said to you, those are just a child's thoughts, don't take it seriously. Xiao Qingzi looked into her still sleepy eyes. He knew that even if she had dreamed of him and called out his name in her sleep, it was impossible that it was what Liqui had said. But hating someone in your dreams is also a type of thought, isn't it? If she hated him, didn't it mean that he had once entered her heart? Second brother, whose car is parked in the yard? Fei Zuhui's voice came from the entrance. Qing Jinlan's place was right next to her parents' house, with a connecting door in the adjoining wall that they usually used. Fei Zuhui knew her daughter wasn't feeling well these past 2 days, so she brought food over to the side to avoid more back and forth. The door to the foyer was half open. Fei Zuhui pushed it open and called into the living room. Whose license plate is that? Coming so early in the morning. Qing Jinlan reacted quickly, grabbing a pair of sunglasses she had casually left on the table and putting them on him before he could refuse. Fei Zuhui paused at the foyer, looking at the tall man wearing black sunglasses standing in the middle of the living room. She was stunned for a moment. Who is this? No matter what was said, Fei Zuhui would probably misunderstand. Qing Jinlan could only use his hotel co-worker identity to cover for now. Before Fei Zuhui could react, Qing Liqui eagerly answered her grandma, Grandma, this uncle is a delivery person. I suddenly wanted Maple Grandpa's custard buns this morning, so the delivery uncle brought over the buns for me. And foods that Mom, Grandma, Grandpa, Auntie Chow, and Uncle love too. He's amazing to be able to deliver so many things by himself. After explaining, Qing Liqui sneakily winked at her parents. Mom said Grandma can't know yet that he's my dad. Dad said it's a secret between the 3 of us that he's my dad. She's so smart, letting Dad pretend to be a delivery uncle so their secret won't be exposed to Grandma. Xiao Qingzi had already halfway raised his hand, originally planning to take off the sunglasses and introduce himself. But now he could only put his hand back down. After all, he couldn't sabotage his own daughter's story. Qing Jinlan helped cover their clumsy story. He's a new employee at the hotel. I'm going over a bit later. He came to discuss some work matters. Liqui wanted custard buns, and he happened to be passing by, so I had him bring some food from Maple Uncle's place. After explaining to Fei Zuhui, Qing Jinlan turned to Xiao Qingzi, you go back first, we'll talk about the rest when I get to the hotel. Her clear, limpid eyes were full of warning. Xiao Qingze cooperated with her threatening look and acted like an obedient employee. All right, Boss Cheng, I'll head back first then. Qing Jinlan indifferently hummed in response. Qing Liqui happily waved goodbye to Dad. She loved this game, it felt like playing hide and seek, with only her and Mom knowing where Dad was hiding. Mrs. Cheng, hello. Xiao Qingze stopped by Fei Zuhui as he walked out, greeting her. Hello. Fei Zuhui nodded slightly. Yet she somehow felt something was off, but couldn't pinpoint what exactly. The young man looked quite spirited and polite, but why was he still wearing sunglasses inside the house on such an overcast day? Xiao Qingze left and Qing Jinlan took the things from Fei Zuhui's hands to distract her from looking outside. Mom, did brother come over to eat? I have something I want to ask him. No, Fei Zuhui grumpily replied, I called but he didn't pick up, who knows if he was out drinking again last night and still hasn't sobered up. I'm too lazy to bother with him anymore. He's almost 30 but still acts like a kid, how long can I keep managing him? Let him do as he likes, less headache for me and him. Qing Liqui swallowed the custard bun in her mouth and said to Fei Zuhui, Grandma, you have to keep an eye on Uncle, or he'll fly away to Mars if you don't watch him. Hearing her granddaughter's soft, childish voice made Fei Zuhui laugh so hard her eyes disappeared. Of course I'll keep an eye on him, can't have your uncle flying off to Mars where we'd never see him again. Qing Liqui nodded, that's right, Mars was too far. She wanted to see Uncle every day. Qing Jinlan stood at the window, glanced at the car driving out of the yard, and casually said to Fei Zuhui, Mom, I'm going to wash up first. Fei Zuhui only had eyes for her little granddaughter at the moment and didn't even hear what her daughter said. Qing Jinlan was halfway through washing her face, bubbles all over, when the person suddenly appearing behind her gave her a fright. Mom, you scared me half to death. Fei Zuhui walked into the bathroom and leaned against the cabinet next to her, calling her name, Qing Jinlan. With the look on her mom's face, Qing Jinlan's heart thumped, thinking she had been found out. Her mom shouldn't have seen him before, how did she recognize him? Or did Liqui let something slip? Did something happen? You look so serious, Qing Jinlan calmly continued washing her face. She had to look serious for the intimidation tactic to work. Fei Zuhui said, do you still remember what you told me a couple days ago, that you don't like younger men and wanted me to introduce men your age? You said that, right? Yes. Well, I happen to have a boy around your age now. Do you want to meet him? Fei Zuhui didn't want her to make excuses, these were your own words, not me forcing you. You can't say it, get my hopes up and find him for you, then brush me off with being too busy at work. That would be no different from playing with your mother's feelings. Fei Zuhui was about to continue when Qing Jinlan rinsed the bubbles off her face and wiped herself dry with face towels. She replied, I'll meet him. Fei Zuhui was stunned. Really? Then when do you want to meet? Check his schedule, I'm free evenings these days. Fei Zuhui didn't expect it to be this easy. Since her daughter had finally loosened up, she had to strike while the iron was hot before she changed her mind again. How about tonight then? Then remembering she wasn't feeling well, never mind, better give it a couple more days since you're not feeling well right now. No need, tonight is fine. Just a meal. Fei Zuhui looked at her suspiciously, feeling something was off about her easy agreement. You're not planning something bad, are you? Qing Jinlan laughed, what bad thing could I be plotting? Weren't you the one who said I should meet more boys and date more? Check new CHDers at novilbin.com. It'd be great if you really thought that way. Then it's decided, tonight it is. I'll give him your number and he can contact you when he arrives. Okay. Qing Jinlan set Fei Zuhui's mind at ease. Mom, I promise I'll go. Only then did Fei Zuhui feel reassured. When Qing Jinlan arrived at Lan Chuan and stepped out of the elevator, she saw the conference room directly opposite full of pastries and drinks from a certain brand. Seeing Qing Jinlan, Tang Yicheng quickly came over to explain the situation. Boss Cheng, Chairman Xiao from Qiaomei sent over desserts and coffee, as thanks for our conference team's hard work. Qing Jinlan nodded to indicate she understood, and told Tang Yicheng, reply in the group chat to thank Chairman Xiao for his support of Lan Chuan's work. Got it. Tang Yicheng held out a box with both hands, Boss Cheng, this one is for you. Qing Jinlan didn't even glance at the box. I won't be having it, you can share it among everyone. She was on her period and sweets helped with the pain, but she didn't want to eat what he sent. Tangy Chang was about to say something when Ching Jinlan had already entered her office. Looking at the box in his hands, Tangy Chang knew Xiao had gone through much difficulty to send over the desserts. But judging by the current situation, Xiao wanted to reconcile, but Ching didn't give him the chance. Given Chang's personality of saying one thing and meaning it, once she decided something it was hard to change her mind. Xiao's road ahead didn't seem easy. Ching Jinlan felt a little better today. She handled some of the work that had piled up over the past 2 days. In the meantime, she received a WeChat friend request from the other party and confirmed the time and location for dinner tonight. Without even asking for the other person's basic information, she agreed to this meeting. She didn't know who she was trying to brush off, probably just herself, Ching Jinlan thought. Ching Jinlan left the hotel early in the afternoon and went to pick up Ching Liqui from kindergarten first before heading to the restaurant. Ever since the paparazzi incident, she tried to pick her up herself whenever possible. There were many cars and people gathered at the kindergarten gate during school pickup time. As soon as Ching Liqui saw her mother, she happily cried "Mommy" while running towards her. Ching Jinlan squatted down to welcome her. A chubby little boy also spotted his mother and charged out like an airplane, accidentally bumping into Ching Jinlan in his haste. Wearing high heels, Ching Jinlan was easily thrown off balance with just a tilt. She was about to fall when someone behind her reached out to support her waist. Without looking back, Ching Jinlan knew who it was. Some people's breaths and scents were engraved in her bones. She relied on his arm's strength to stand firm, then swiftly left his embrace. "Mommy, did you get hurt anywhere?" Ching Liqui asked anxiously. Ching Jinlan reassured her, "Mommy is fine, didn't get hurt anywhere." The little boy's mother brought him over to apologize. Ching Jinlan waved her hand and said it was nothing, it wasn't the little boy's fault, she just lost her balance. Seeing that her mother was okay, Ching Liqui finally relaxed. She held her mother's hand with one hand and her father's with the other. Her parents had both come to pick her up from school today, making her very happy. "Mommy, Daddy was so amazing just now, he rushed out and hugged you in an instant." Ching Jinlan stroked her little braid but said nothing, just smiling at her. Ching Liqui looked towards Xiao Qingze again. "Daddy, was your work not busy today, so you came to pick me up from school?" Xiao Qingze also stroked her little braid. "Yes, Daddy wasn't busy with work today." "That's great." Ching Liqui swung her little braid happily. "Mommy, can we go shopping at the mall today? Our school holiday is coming up soon, and I want to buy presents for Shinchuki and Yanshili." Ching Jinlan replied, "Mommy has something to do later and can't go shopping with you today. How about next weekend?" "Oh, okay." Ching Liqui sounded a little disappointed. Xiao Qingze didn't know if she really had something on or if that was just an excuse to avoid him. He suggested, "Can I take her shopping while you take care of your errand, then bring her to find you afterwards?" Ching Liqui perked up again. "Can we do that, Mommy?" Children's Day was in 10 days after the upcoming school holiday, and she still hadn't chosen a birthday present for Mommy yet. If Daddy accompanied her shopping, she could pick out a birthday gift for Mommy with him today. Seeing the excitement on her face, Ching Jinlan agreed, "All right, Mommy will call you when I'm done." "Okay, Mommy. I'll be good and stay with Daddy, I won't run around. You take care of your errand without worrying about me." Ching Jinlan squeezed her little hand, such a good girl. In the end, Ching Jinlan didn't say a word to Xiao Qingze or even glance at him. Ching Liqui waved goodbye to Mommy from Daddy's arms, telling Mommy to drive slowly. After Mommy's car had driven far away, Ching Liqui hugged Daddy's neck and asked, "Daddy, you still don't know how to make Mommy happy?" "Not yet for now." "I see." Ching Liqui comforted Daddy, "Don't worry Daddy, even if you can't make Mommy happy, there will surely be other boys in this world who can make Mommy happy." Xiao Qingze's expression changed. "Just like me when I'm unhappy, Zhou Jiaheng tries to cheer me up but I'm still not happy. But when Shinchuki cheers me up, I become happy right away." Xiao Qingze's expression changed again. "Daddy, isn't this the difference between liking someone and not liking them?" Xiao Qingze's face no longer showed any discernible color. Ching Jinlan had an appointment and, as usual, arrived a little early, about 10 minutes in advance. When she got there, the other party was already present, which didn't make for a terrible first impression. She liked people who were punctual and hated when people were late. The other party was an ABC, from an overseas family business, now into the third generation taking over domestic business expansion. It goes without saying that Fei Zuhui had already vetted him, so his looks were certainly up to par. He was quite the gentleman, not pretentious at all, and though he had grown up abroad since childhood, he didn't insert countless English words into his speech. His conversation starters were also relaxing, chatting about food and local customs. Qing Jinlan was upfront with him. "I have a 6-year-old daughter." He replied, "She must be very cute." He should have known this in advance, so he wasn't surprised. It was a pleasing response, not off-putting at all. He seemed great in every aspect, but even so, she just couldn't focus. She kept spacing out. He noticed, but didn't seem bothered. When she spaced out, he would quietly sip his wine and eat, and Qing Jinlan felt a little apologetic. She had decided to come to this meal, so she should at least show him a modicum of respect. "Sorry, I'm not feeling great today." Qing Jinlan smiled ruefully. But He Jiqian said, "Miss Chang, no need to apologize. Eating is supposed to be relaxing. When I'm tired, I also like zoning out." Qing Jinlan's thoughts stirred. His response was just right to put her at ease. She asked, why did Mr. He agree to this blind date? She knew many ABCs around her who didn't like using blind dates to meet a partner. Moreover, with He Jiqian's status, even if he wasn't proactive, there should still be no lack of admirers around him. He Jiqian answered, "Firstly, if I didn't come, I'd probably get bombarded with overseas calls from my mother every day for the next month, pushing me to get married before 30. That was her New Year's goal she set for herself." Qing Jinlan laughed at his frankness. Secondly, He Jiqian raised the wine glass in front of him and gently swirled it, looking at the flickering light reflecting off the glass, his thoughts seeming to drift elsewhere as well. "I don't want to look back on my past." Qing Jinlan was taken aback. "There are some doubts in my heart, but I don't want to be plagued by doubts, so I'm eager to take a step forward." He Jiqian looked at Qing Jinlan, his eyes seeming to peer into her soul. "I guess Ms. Chang's reasons are the same as mine." He Jiqian prided himself on being a good judge of character. This second miss of the Qing family seemed to be cut from the same cloth as him, proud, guarded with her emotions, so she couldn't tolerate any deception or exploitation. Once trust was shattered, it was hard to convince herself to trust again. Qing Jinlan's smile faded and disappeared until she was silent. The rest of their conversation was superficial. Neither delved deeper into what had just been said. It was Qing Jinlan who ended the date early. As the lady, she paid the bill, making her intentions clear. Your F4 stories on /o/v/lbn.cm. He Jiqian apologized for his directness just now. "I hope I didn't offend Ms. Chang." His mother was right, he had to learn to see but not say, especially in front of ladies. Qing Jinlan shook her head. "No offense taken. Mr. He just returned to the country, so I should be the host and treat you to this welcoming dinner." He Jiqian said with a smile that he would definitely have to return the favor next time. Qing Jinlan replied, "Of course." But they both knew that unless they met again for business, there likely wouldn't be another dinner. Qing Jinlan didn't feel offended at having been seen through. She just didn't want to be used as a stepping stone for others to gauge her inner heart, just as she didn't want to do that to others on her own search for answers. Qing Jinlan declined He Jiqian's offer to have his driver drop her home. She was afraid she'd be drinking tonight and had already asked her family's driver to wait for her. After parting with He Jiqian, Qing Jinlan called Qing Liqui, but no one picked up. Her watch must be out of battery. Then Qing Jinlan dialed Xiao Qing's number. He picked up very quickly. It was Qing Liqui's voice. "Mom. Are you done with your errand?" "Yes, are you done shopping at the mall?" "I finished shopping at the mall. Now Daddy and I are doing something else." Qing Liqui and Daddy were making pottery as a birthday present for Mommy, but Mommy couldn't know yet. "How much longer until you're done?" Qing Liqui asked Daddy, "Daddy, how much longer until we finish?" Xiao Qingzi replied to Qing Liqui and Qing Jinlan, "About half an hour left." Qing Jinlan rubbed her temples. She had some wine and her head felt a little dizzy now. "Then Mommy will head home first. When you're done, have Daddy bring you back. Don't be too late, you still have school tomorrow." "Okay, Mommy." Qing Liqui held the phone and nodded. "I'll come straight home after I finish this. Don't miss me too much, Mommy, but I'll miss you." Qing Jinlan's eyes crinkled into a smile. Her daughter's sweet words never failed to melt away some of the troubles in her heart. After hanging up with Mommy, Qing Liqui said to Daddy, "Daddy, let's hurry and finish so we can go home and see Mommy." Xiao Qingzi used his finger to wipe away a speck of clay on her nose. If only he could learn even a tenth of his daughter's sweet words, things between them wouldn't be like this. She also wouldn't ask him such piercing questions. Qing Liqui was very excited making the pottery. As soon as she got in the car, her eyelids grew heavy and she fell asleep on the way to the Qing residence. When Qing Jinlan heard the doorbell, she came out to get Qing Liqui. Xiao Qingzi carefully undid the seatbelt and lifted his daughter into his arms. Qing Liqui woke up halfway and saw it was Daddy holding her and Mommy next to them. Still dazed, she first called Mommy, then Daddy, before hugging Xiao Qingzi's neck and falling back asleep. "There are things I bought in the passenger seat, you grab those and I'll carry her in." Without looking at the person beside him, Xiao Qingzi said this, then carried Qing Liqui up the stairs, a guilty conscience that only he knew. Qing Jinlan shot his retreating back a sideways glance, then turned and opened the car door to grab the pile of stuff from the passenger seat. Xiao Qingzi stood holding Qing Liqui at the door, waiting for Qing Jinlan to come open it. As she entered the password, he automatically turned his back, the epitome of a gentleman. Once inside, Qing Jinlan jerked her chin at the living room sofa. "You can put her down on the sofa." Xiao Qingzi replied, "Okay." As soon as Qing Liqui's back touched the sofa, her eyes opened again. She mumbled to Xiao Qingzi, "Daddy, are we home?" "Yes, we're home. Sleep now." Xiao Qingzi gently patted her shoulder. Qing Liqui blinked blearily at the air. Just woken up, she was still a little dazed. After a few seconds, she let out a small yawn, big eyes brimming with sleepy tears. "I haven't brushed my teeth yet. I can't sleep now." "You have to brush your teeth before sleeping, or else they'll turn black." Qing Jinlan gently told Qing Liqui, "Good girl Liqui. Wake up a bit first, then Mommy will take you to wash up." Then she lightly kicked Xiao Qingzi's foot, signaling him to hurry up and leave. "Daddy has to go now too. Say bye to Daddy, Liqui." Qing Liqui sat up from the sofa and rubbed her eyes. She asked Xiao Qingzi, "Is Daddy going back for a meeting?" Xiao Qingzi smoothed her messy hair. "No meeting." "Then can Daddy help me wash up and tell me a story and tuck me into bed? Mommy's tummy doesn't feel well. She can't get too tired and needs to rest early." Xiao Qingzi looked at Qing Jinlan. "I'll tuck her and then leave." After a moment of silence, Qing Jinlan nodded. "All right." Since he wanted to be a good dad, then so be it. It was Xiao Qingzi's first time helping his daughter wash up. Rather than him helping her, it was more like she was teaching him where the toothpaste and toothbrush were, which facial wash to use. The water couldn't be too cold or hot, wipe her face gently, and not just her face, her hands and little feet needed scent too, but a different scent. A simple washing up left Xiao Qingzi drenched in sweat. After washing and brushing up, Qing Liqui changed into pajamas herself and got into bed, hugging her two little bears. "Okay Daddy, you can tell me a story now." Xiao Qingzi squatted by the bed and cleared his throat. This time he chose a princess story. Qing Liqui stroked her bear's arm as she watched her daddy's mouth open and close. She thought to herself she really hadn't guessed wrong. Storytelling required talent. No matter how hard Daddy tried to learn, like Grandpa, he just couldn't tell good stories. But Daddy sang pretty well. Next time she'd just have Daddy sing instead. Daddy told stories without much flair. To humor Daddy, she had to chime in every so often, asking questions and reacting. Her earlier sleepiness had completely disappeared, replaced by growing liveliness. Qing Liqui told Daddy, "Daddy, I want some water." "Okay, Daddy will go pour some for you." Xiao Qingzi tucked her blanket around her and got up to leave the room. The living room was empty. The floor-to-ceiling windows were open, the curtains fluttering in the breeze. He saw the slender silhouette sitting on the balcony. He walked over. Hearing movement, Qing Jinlan looked back. Her gaze was somewhat unfocused. On the round table was a wine bottle and glass with just a sip left at the bottom. He picked up the bottle and set it aside. "You shouldn't be drinking now." It took Qing Jinlan some time to react to what he was saying. She said, "It's none of your business. You're drunk. Go inside and sleep, okay?" Xiao Qingzi crouched down to her eye level, coaxing her like he did with Qing Liqui. She couldn't handle more than 1 or 2 glasses of wine. She'd had too much tonight. Qing Jinlan looked into his eyes, then suddenly softly called out his name. "Xiao Qingzi." "Yes, I'm here. I'm not drunk. You're the one who's drunk. I'm sober. That night, he was drunk and she was sober. She hated her soberness and the softness of her heart at that moment. She hated even more that, when she had found countless excuses for him and was ready to forgive him, he had slapped her heartlessly with those words that morning. Whether your words are true or false, I will not forgive you, she murmured, looking into his eyes. She would not forgive him again. Fine, then don't forgive me. She was satisfied with his response. Her head slowly leaned against his shoulder. After a few seconds, she fell asleep due to the drunkenness. Xiao Qingzi brushed aside the hair covering her cheek. Her breath carried a faint scent of red wine, hitting his neck again and again, tugging at his nerves. Looking at the alluring red lips so close to him, Xiao Qingzi slowly gave in to the urge to shorten the distance between them. Dad, Qing Liqui said softly, standing barefoot not far away with her hands covering her eyes. There was an obvious gap between her middle and index fingers. You don't have Mom's permission yet. You can't kiss her. Qing Liqui said, then closed up the gaps between her fingers, covering her eyes tightly. Xiao Qingzi retreated a step awkwardly, gritting his teeth as he tried to explain the situation to his daughter. Mom is asleep. Dad wanted to carry Mom to the bedroom. Qing Liqui opened up the gaps between her fingers again. Her long eyelashes fluttered as she looked at everything with her big eyes. She was considerate of her dad and didn't poke holes in his story further. She just went along with his words, saying, Mom's room is next to mine. Dad, you have to carry Mom gently and not wake her up. Okay, will little Liqui lead the way for Dad? Xiao Qingzi couldn't make eye contact with his daughter now. This was the first time in his life that he felt so awkward. Okay, Dad. Qing Liqui turned around and walked in front, leading the way for her dad. Xiao Qingzi supported Qing Jinlan by the waist and carried her horizontally in his arms. Qing Jinlan frowned and opened her blurry, drunk eyes. Seeing the person in front of her, the creases between her brows smoothed out. Her fingers lightly touched his jaw, going upwards until they reached his ears. She mumbled softly, Xiao Qingzi, why are your ears red? Xiao Qingzi's shoulders stiffened. Her voice was so slurred that he couldn't help but call out softly, meow meow. Qing Jinlan responded indistinctly. She wriggled around in his arms to find a comfortable position and fell back asleep. Read the latest stories and novilbin.com. She was really drunk, otherwise she would never have let him get so close to her, let alone initiate such intimate touches. Qing Liqui led her dad into her mom's room. She tiptoed and stretched out her little arms to flip open the blanket. She patted the pillow. Dad, you have to put Mom down gently and slowly. Okay. Xiao Qingzi gently and slowly placed the woman in his arms onto the bed. He took the thin quilt to cover her body, tucking in the corners neatly. Qing Jinlan's back touched the soft bed. Her arms hugged the blanket as she fell into a deep sleep. Qing Liqui stood at the side watching her dad's actions. She nodded in satisfaction. Okay, Dad. Let's not disturb Mom's sleep now. Qing Liqui took her dad's hand and said softly, let's go out. Xiao Qingzi bent down to carry his well-behaved little one. He turned off the lights and left the room, leaving the door ajar. Qing Liqui drank a big glass of water and lay back in bed. She didn't want to listen to Dad tell stories anymore. To use her big uncle's words, she wouldn't make things difficult for him or herself. Dad, sing me a song. Sing the nursery rhyme you sang the other day. Dad's singing is the best. Okay. Xiao Qingzi patted her shoulder gently as he sang the low, melodious tune that slowly filled the room. Qing Liqui felt very comfortable being patted by her dad. Listening to her dad singing by her ear was better than listening to it on the phone. The overlapping drowsiness made her whole body relax. Her heavy eyelids slowly drooped down. Suddenly, there was a loud rumble of thunder and lightning outside. The gloomy sky all day seemed to burst open as heavy rain poured down. Qing Liqui was just about to fall asleep. She was startled awake by the thunder, sitting up in bed anxiously as she looked at her dad. Dad, it's thundering outside. She was most afraid of thunderstorms. Xiao Qingzi covered her ears and held her in his arms, gently coaxing her. Little Liqui isn't scared. Dad is here. Dad will stay with you. Qing Liqui asked Xiao Qingzi, her voice aggrieved. Dad, can you not go back home tonight? I'll be scared. Okay, Dad will stay here tonight. Hearing her dad's words, Qing Liqui slowly calmed down. She hugged her dad's arm, with Dad accompanying me, I won't be afraid. After I fall asleep, Dad can sleep on the sofa in the living room. The sofa is soft and comfortable to sleep on. She thought of something else, if Dad stays over, you can also take care of Mom in the morning. Mom hasn't been feeling well these 2 days. Xiao Qing's eyelashes were gentle, our little Liqui is so smart. Qing Liqui smiled. Her clear eyes looked earnestly at her dad. Dad, boys cannot secretly kiss girls. Xiao Qing's expression froze again, but he also knew he couldn't deny it anymore. He sincerely promised his daughter, Dad remembers. Teacher Qing nodded. Dad, do you want me to keep it a secret and not let Mom know you wanted to secretly kiss her? Xiao Qingze stroked her hair, if little Liqui is willing. Qing Liqui thought about it, I can only keep this kind of secret for Dad once. There's a phrase, this will not happen again. It means that if you make a mistake, you only get one chance. I'll forgive you this time, but you can't do it again next time. Xiao Qingze felt utterly ashamed. Thank you little Liqui for giving Dad a chance. You're welcome, Dad. Qing Liqui covered her mouth as she yawned drowsily. She really was tired. Today was already an hour later than her usual bedtime. Although the thunder outside was still continuing, Mom was sleeping next door and Dad was by her side, so she had nothing to fear. Before long, her breathing evened out. Only when his daughter was fast asleep did Xiao Qingze slowly withdraw his arm and get up. His legs were numb from squatting, so he stood in place for a while to recover. The thunder was getting louder and louder, as if wanting to split the sky open. She didn't like thunderstorms. He turned and went to stand by the door of the next room to check on the situation inside. Qing Jinlan was half asleep. There was an indescribable discomfort in her body. Her stomach felt unwell from drinking too much, and her lower abdomen felt uneasy because of her period. With the loud rumbling thunder, she tossed and turned in bed, flipping around like a pancake. No matter how she lay, she felt uncomfortable. Xiao Qingze walked to the bedside, leaning down to ask softly by her ear, where does it feel uncomfortable? Qing Jinlan mumbled, stomach. Xiao Qingze's hand covered her stomach, gently massaging it. Does this feel a little better? His hands were big. As he moved, the warmth from his palms passed through her thin pajamas. The tearing pain in her stomach alleviated significantly. Qing Jinlan sank her head further into the pillow, press harder. Xiao Qingze exerted more strength with his hands, like this? Qing Jinlan let out a soft moan. This felt comfortable. She was too lazy to respond. After a while, Qing Jinlan mumbled, thirsty. Xiao Qingze leaned in closer to listen, where else feels uncomfortable? Thirsty. Qing Jinlan unconsciously responded according to his words. I'll go get you water. Just as Xiao Qingze was about to remove his hand, Qing Jinlan reached out to press his hand back down, dissatisfied, don't stop. Xiao Qingze continued massaging her as he asked, do you still want to drink water? Want. Thirsty. Xiao Qingze smiled helplessly, let me go get water for you first. Very quick, won't even take a minute. Then I'll continue massaging, okay? Qing Jinlan contemplated for a moment before reluctantly agreeing to his proposal, then be quick. Okay. Xiao Qingze responded. Though he said it would be quick, it still didn't end up very fast. Xiao Qingze had to find a cup and honey to mix a cup of warm honey water. With a cup in each hand, he supported her up, meow meow, sit up to drink water. You're so slow. Qing Jinlan grumbled dissatisfiedly with half-closed eyes. Xiao Qingze admitted his mistake, sorry. When the water was brought to her lips, Qing Jinlan took a small sip first. It was slightly sweet and not bad tasting, so she slowly drank it in small mouthfuls. In the end, she still drank too hurriedly, causing water to flow from the corners of her mouth. Xiao Qingze placed the cup on the bedside table. His fingers on her cheek intercepted the trickling honey water, sliding upwards from her cheek to stop at the corners of her lips without leaving. Her cherry lips glistened with the honey water under the dim, warm yellow lamplight, shining with a rosy luster. It was a bright, overt temptation, hooking people towards an abyss of no return. As if knowing his thoughts, her hands wound around his neck as she lightly tilted her head up, gazing at him hazily as if waiting for his kiss. This scene was extremely similar to a rainy night many years ago. The beast in his heart slowly awakened, breaking out of its shackles and cage, howling and roaring. However, his daughter's words were like a tightening spell around his head, repeatedly sounding by his ear. In the end, Xiao Qingzhe turned his head away. Qing Jinlan seemed dissatisfied. Her fingers gripped his chin to make him face her again. She kissed him in a manner that did not allow him to evade. Xiao Qingzhe hesitated for a moment, but it was just a moment. The next second, he took control, caressing, embracing, and gently nibbling those cherry red lips that had appeared countless times in his dreams. The dreamscape had entered reality. He couldn't distinguish whether this was currently a dream or if the softness in his arms, the warmth on his lips, the breath in his mouth, were truly his to possess. The moment their tongues touched, Qing Jinlan suddenly opened her eyes. The drunkenness seemed to clear from her eyes. Her fingers touched his face as she frowned. Her tongue retreated and her teeth bit down on the corner of his lips without holding back any strength. The taste of blood spread. Her lips pressed against his lips as she fell asleep. The heavy rain turned to a light drizzle that continued through the night. On the clear morning after the early summer rain, there was dazzling sunlight, the fragrance of flowers, and birdsong. The doors of the two adjoining rooms opened simultaneously. A big and small figure stood in the doorway in identical postures. Qing Jinlan had woken up groggy. One hand grasping the doorknob and the other rubbing her messy hair, wanting to make herself more awake. Qing Liqui had just woken up and was still in a daze. One hand grasping the doorknob and the other rubbing her messy hair, unclear about where she was right now. Xiao Qingzhe walked over from the living room wearing a white shirt and apron, still holding a ladle in his hand. The mother and daughter duo were stunned seeing him. Their blurry vision gradually became clear. Both pairs of eyes landed on the obvious wound at the corner of his mouth at the same time. There was bewilderment in Qing Liqui's eyes. There was murderous intent in Qing Jinlan's eyes. Then, the memories that had died amidst last night's thunder began attacking her muddled brain. Qing Liqui rubbed her eyes and looked up, carefully examining the wound on her father's lips. "Dad, what happened to your lips?" The injury looked quite severe. Dad had been getting hurt in such strange places recently, first his nose bridge, and now his lips. Was Dad using the bitter flesh strategy again? Dad accidentally bit himself. Xiao Qingzhe stroked Qing Liqui's disheveled bangs away from her forehead, glancing around to meet the other person's gaze. She immediately looked away whenever their eyes met. The corner of Xiao Qingzhe's mouth imperceptibly curved up. She hadn't lost her memory and still remembered what had happened last night. Another accident. Last time it was accidentally bumping into something, this time it was accidentally biting himself. Qing Liqui now confirmed this was another of Dad's bitter flesh tactics. She felt the need to impart her grandfather's wisdom to Dad. Whenever Grandpa used the bitter flesh strategy, he would only injure his fingers. As soon as his fingers were hurt, Grandma would hold his fingers, blow on them, rub them, apply medicine, and stick on a band-aid. Then Grandma would forgive Grandpa, just like that. There was no need to injure his nose or lips. She was a little worried that if Dad kept using this bitter flesh strategy, who knew what he would hurt next time. "Mom, there was heavy rain last night and loud thunder. I was very scared, so I asked Dad to sleep with me. I told Dad that after I fell asleep, he could sleep on the sofa in the living room. The sofa is soft and just as comfortable as the bed." Qing Liqui explained to Mom why Dad was here. "Mom, was it good of me to arrange it like this?" Little Liqui arranged it very well. Qing Jinlan gave her a big compliment. Qing Liqui looked at Mom and exclaimed, "Mom, why are your ears red?" That one sentence instantly made both adults' expressions turn awkward. Qing Jinlan thought back to last night, leaning against him with her hand stroking his ear, asking why his ears were red. Xiao Qingzhe also thought back to last night, her cool fingers rubbing and tickling his ears, hooking his soul. Then both of their minds simultaneously flashed back to that abruptly halted kiss. Qing Jinlan put her arm around Qing Liqui's shoulder, pushing her towards the bathroom. "It must be because the weather is too hot. Let's hurry up and wash, or you'll be late for school and Mom will be late for work." As Qing Jinlan pushed her to walk, Qing Liqui kept talking. "Mom, Dad was so awesome last night. He picked you up from the chair on the balcony so gently, like he was holding a precious treasure. Mom, did you not even feel it when Dad carried you from the balcony to the bedroom?" Qing Liqui was speaking up for Dad, because she felt Dad was too dumb and didn't even know how to use the bitter flesh strategy. Qing Jinlan replied, "Yes, Mom didn't feel anything at all. I slept so deeply last night that I slept until daylight without even knowing it rained." This kind of lame excuse that tried to deceive herself was probably only able to fool Qing Liqui. Xiao Qingze watched her panicked footsteps that she couldn't conceal even as she tried her best to maintain composure. The corner of his mouth slowly curled up. The flustered woman who had fled into the bathroom poked half her body back out to look at him. Her gaze no longer held last night's soft warmth and had reverted to the previous aloof detachment. Even her voice carried chilled airiness. "Don't you have a morning meeting? You'll be late if you don't leave soon." He didn't even know he had any meeting this morning. How did she know? She just wanted him to leave but didn't dare say it outright because of little Liqui. "I'll leave after I finish cooking the soup. Little Liqui gave me orders that you're not feeling well and I have to take care of you." Since she always said he was shameless and despicable, then he would shamelessly use little Liqui's words as an excuse. It would only make him a little more shameless and despicable in her heart, and he couldn't get any worse than he already was. The morning was so warm and intimate, who knew when they would have such a chance again. He was reluctant to leave so soon. Qing Liqui also peeked out from the bathroom, her mouth full of toothpaste foam, and spoke unclearly to show off to her mom, "Mom, it was me who said Dad had to take care of you. I'm still small and can't take care of you when you're sick, so I could only ask Dad to help me take care of you. When I grow up, I can take care of you myself." Her daughter's mouth was Qing Jinglan's weakness. She pinched her petite chin, then "Hurry up and brush your teeth well, eat a lot, and grow up quickly. Otherwise I'll have to sell you off before you grow up." Qing Liqui nodded vigorously. "Mom, I'll eat 2 bowls of rice this morning, then whoosh, grow up immediately. Once I'm grown up I can take care of you." Because of her daughter's thoughtful childish words, a smile crept onto the corners of Qing Jinglan's mouth. Most up-to-date NVELs are published on n0velgen.co/m. Seeing her mom smile, Qing Liqui's eyes curved happily as she giggled too. The morning sunlight coming in through the window lattices shone on the smiling faces of mother and daughter, intense and dazzling. Xiao Qingze could barely restrain himself from walking over and taking the little girl into his embrace as well. Just then, the doorbell rang, followed by Qing Jinchuan's loud voice, "Little Liqui, are you still sleeping in? It's so late already, hurry up and come see what nice things your uncle brought you." Qing Jinglan's heart jumped. She asked Xiao Qingze, "Is your car parked in the yard?" Xiao Qingze replied, "I already had the driver take it away." He knew his identity couldn't see the light of day. Early this morning, he had the driver bring a change of clothes and take away the car as well. Qing Jinglan breathed a sigh of relief. She threw Xiao's coat, watch, and shoes into the bedroom and closet before going to open the door. "What's with you coming over so early in the morning?" Qing Jinchuan scad. What kind of sister was she, calling her big brother crazy? "Here, look." Qing Jinchuan shook what was in his hand. Little Liqui was clamoring a few days ago that she wanted to fly a kite, Elsa's kite. "She'll definitely love it." "Where is she?" "Still not awake." Qing Jinglan replied, "She's using the bathroom, she just went in and will take a while to come out." Qing Jinchuan felt a little regretful. He was in a rush and had to leave immediately. Otherwise he really should at least wait for little Liqui to come out and personally hand her the kite. When she saw this kite, she would definitely hug his neck and excitedly yell that the person she loved most in the world was uncle. "I heard Mom say you had dinner with He Zhiqin last night?" As Qing Jinchuan was about to leave, he suddenly remembered this matter. Qing Jinglan didn't want to talk much about it. This He Zhiqin is decent. He's the 3rd son of the He family. Back then his school was next to mine. He's quite famous in the Chinese community, clean and upright, not the reckless type. His family's reputation is also clean from top to bottom, no shady business whatsoever. Their family wants to expand into the domestic market and he's responsible for this part. He'll certainly be staying long-term in the future. If you really got together with him, you also wouldn't need to worry about living apart in 2 places. If He Zhiqin wasn't set on staying domestic, Qing Jinchuan would not agree to his sister meeting him. Their family's daughter definitely could not marry far away. Marrying into the groom's family would be best. Qing Jinglan cut him off before he could continue. "It was just a meal. Nothing's happened. You're thinking too far ahead." Qing Jinchuan also knew he was thinking too far. But he was anxious. Ever since little Liqui found out her dad was Xiao Qingze, he'd been anxious. He kept feeling like things would develop in unpredictable directions. He Zhiqin isn't bad. If you feel the first impression is decent, you can try gradually developing it further. If he's no good, we still have others. I have plenty of outstanding young men around me. If you're willing, I'll organize a party for you in the future with lots of men for you to pick from. I refuse to believe we can't find an absolutely perfect brother-in-law. In short, anyone but Xiao Qingze. There were no good people in the Xiao family. Qing Jinglan glared at him. Still lots of men for her to casually pick from? Keep quiet. When you talk properly you can't even string a few sentences together. You're just a confirmed old bachelor but you're rushing me? Qing Jinchuan felt like he'd been shot through the heart, blood gushing out. He stumbled out the door. Outside he was known as the single noble Diamond King No. 5, yet his own little sister was calling him a confirmed old bachelor. Qing Liqui couldn't hear very clearly what Uncle and Mom were talking about. She was diligently brushing her little teeth white. Xiao Qingze stood in front of the half-closed bathroom door, his expression murky. After seeing Qing Jinchuan off, Qing Jinglan called Fei Zuhui to say something suddenly came up and she had to leave early, so wouldn't be going for the meal. She would take Qing Liqui to eat at the hotel. She couldn't let him swagger out of her home, in case they ran into someone at the door. That would blow up. She had to hide him in the car and take him out with her. Following an online recipe, Xiao Qingze cooked a pot of red date and snow ear soup. It wasn't a total success but also not a total failure. Qing Liqui really propped up her dad by drinking 2 bowls. Under her daughter's watchful gaze, Qing Jinglan reluctantly drank a couple sips first. The hot sweet soup slid down her throat into her hungover stomach, unexpectedly making her feel much more comfortable. Even her queasy stomach didn't feel as bad. She leisurely finished a whole bowl, then refilled it for another. Xiao Qingze's eyes softened slightly. This was the first time Qing Liqui was seen off to school by both her mom and dad together. At the door she lingered for a long time, first telling her dad the soup he cooked was delicious and she wanted to drink the soup dad cooked next time too. Then she told her mom she would miss her every second. Her mouth was sweeter than drinking 10 jars of honey. She insisted on watching her parents get in the car before following the teacher in. Qing Jinlan stopped the car at the next intersection from the kindergarten and let the passenger get out of the car. Jinchuan and Xiao don't go the same way, let your driver come pick you up. Xiao Qingze turned his head to look at the driver, with his injured mouth facing her. Could you please stop at a pharmacy door, my lips hurt badly and need some medicine. It's just a small wound, how bad could it hurt? As if Xiao Qingze knew what she was thinking, he said, you were drunk last night so you may not remember, actually this wound on my mouth wasn't from me biting myself, it was from you biting me. Last night when your stomach felt uncomfortable, you held my hand to help massage your stomach. Halfway through you said you were thirsty, so I went to get you water but you didn't let me. You probably mistook my lips for a cup, pressing and biting me. I struggled but couldn't resist, so I could only let you do as you wished. Bullshit. Qing Jinlan was embarrassed and furious, he was spouting nonsense. What did he mean let her do as she wished? It was clearly you. She hurriedly stopped herself halfway, he had set a trap for her. Xiao Qingze smiled, remember now? She pretended not to remember, and he didn't intend to expose her, but he changed his mind now. Get out. Qing Jinlan's expression was indifferent, but her ears and neck were flushed red. Xiao Qingze unfastened his seatbelt but didn't move. You used my hand and mouth last night, you can't just take advantage and leave. But I guess bridges can be demolished quickly after crossing the river. Qing Jinlan squeezed the words through clenched teeth. Yes, President Xiao is so precious, I certainly won't take advantage for nothing. But first, you have to let me think carefully about how to repay President Xiao for this favor. I'll give you a reply before I'm off work today. I don't know if President Xiao can wait that long. Xiao Qingze raised his eyebrows, surprised that she agreed so readily. He consented to this plan, at least she would be thinking of him all day today. Just after Xiao Qingze entered his office, his phone buzzed with an incoming message from Tang Yicheng at Jinchuan. It was a red envelope transfer of 0.01 yuan. Following that was a message, President Xiao, our President Qing said this is the service fee paid to President Xiao. While sending the message, Tang Yicheng wondered what kind of service Xiao provided that was only worth 0.01 yuan, it seemed a bit too cheap. Xiao Qingze's face turned black as charcoal. After a heavy rain, the sky was as blue as washed silk, the clouds as white as satin, even the air carried a refreshing scent that gladdened one's heart. Tang Yicheng felt that Boss Qing was in not too bad a mood today. In the past few days, worries weighed heavily on his mind no matter how calm he appeared on the surface, and irritation crept up that he couldn't suppress fully. Since following boss Chang, Tang rarely saw such obvious emotional fluctuations from him. Tang couldn't help wondering if boss Chang's sudden uplift in mood had anything to do with Chairman Xiao's gift that's worth a penny. Qing Jinlan attributed her good mood to her period being over, definitely not because thinking of Xiao's expression when receiving that red envelope inexplicably exhilarated her. Even her daughter Qing Liqui wouldn't do something so childish, and she's Qing Liqui's mother, how could she be more childish than Qing Liqui? Unlike launching, it was unusually quiet today in Xiao's executive office. When Kong Yi-chan went in this morning to report work, she came out and signaled to the group of assistants that it's best to keep it down today. The boss wasn't in the best mood, a mood so bad that his face looked somewhat blue. Blue wasn't accurate though. Kong was from the countryside. At her grandma's they cooked with a big stove made by laying cement bricks. After long use, the fumes made the area around the stove ashy, not quite ash-colored, not quite black. The boss's complexion was just like the color of that stove. Although the office was silent, the group chat was on fire. Although the boss didn't show it on the surface recently, everyone knew his mood had been quite good. Saying it was just quite good was an understatement. It should be said the boss was in an excellent mood. Not to mention whatever past Senior Xiao had with the second miss of the Qing family, having a daughter like her gifted in both looks and intelligence suddenly descend from heavens, anyone would be delighted, and would probably laugh themselves awake even in dreams. They didn't know if the boss had laughed himself awake from dreams, but the consistent sternness in the boss's eyes unmistakably softened these days, a change that made them overjoyed, because when the boss was happy, their days naturally became easier. They thought this good life would continue, but unexpectedly the boss's mood took a drastic downturn today. The junior assistant asked, "Shouldn't it be like this?" Lately things had been peaceful in the company, those that needed to be cleared out from the Wu family were mostly gone. Senior Xiao also let go of his power. The Xiaos now completely listened to Boss Xiao. What was there for him to be upset about? How could he be in a bad mood? The second assistant said, "Could it be because of that piece of land in Nanqing?" The senior assistant said, "That can't be right. The Nanqing land was taken by the Changs, although there was old resentment between the Xiao and Qing families, that was the previous generation's business. Now Boss Xiao obviously harbors feelings for second Miss Qing, and their daughter's already grown. With Boss Xiao in charge now, even if there were 10 more family precepts, with Boss Xiao's decisiveness and vigor, whatever he wanted to do even the Heavenly King couldn't stop him. These two families will come together sooner or later, so what does it matter which family owns that piece of land now?" Kong Yi-chan gently coughed, and the three assistants immediately put away their gossiping and slacking thoughts, pretending to start working diligently. When Boss Xiao walked by this morning, the three assistants also pretended to be diligently working, not daring to lift their heads to look, so they didn't notice the conspicuous wound at the corner of Xiao's mouth, which was on the outer edge of his lips, definitely not caused by him biting himself accidentally. The only person who dared bite her boss, other than second Miss Qing from the Changs, Kong couldn't think of anyone else. Then thinking of the stove-colored complexion on Boss Xiao's face, a word flashed across her mind, unsatisfied. This was probably the reason the boss was in a bad mood. The office phone rang. Kong looked at the number, straightened her back, cleared her throat, and picked up the receiver. "Boss Xiao." Xiao Qingzi instructed, "Assistant Kong, help me arrange some time with Qing Jinlan." Kong Yi-chan was silent for a second, thinking she misheard. She confirmed it once more, "Boss Qing from the Changs?" "Yes, just say I want to discuss that piece of land in Nanqing with him, it's not super urgent. You can call Chang's side every morning before work, and once more after work every day, until we can arrange a time with him." "All right, Boss Xiao." Kong thought, this would be a protracted war. "Also, I sent you a photo of a pair of sunglasses, help me check the price." "Oh, okay." Kong already received the photo on her computer. They were clearly women's sunglasses, with brand and model number. The price could be found with one search on the official site, almost half of what she made in a month. Kong sent the price to Boss Xiao. Boss Xiao replied with 2 words, "Very good." For a moment Kong didn't understand the meaning behind these 2 words. Was he saying her work efficiency was very good, or the price of the sunglasses was very good? She assumed he meant her work efficiency was good. Today Lanqing had an art exhibition, by a painter Qing Jinlan was very fond of, who was also her bosom friend. She specifically cleared her afternoon to go see the exhibition. Most of the paintings were splattered ink in black and white, pushed to such dreary extremes that it looped back to being flamboyant. Qing Jinlan slowly walked through the exhibition hall, finally stopping in front of a painting. This was the only oil painting done in thick, vibrant colors, the blue sea, pink glow of dusk, golden sunset, a man and woman walking on the silvery beach. She could almost smell the scent of sea breeze. Her phone vibrated. Qing Jinlan looked at the string of numbers on the screen and was dazed for a moment. She had never saved this number in her contacts. When she blocked him on WeChat initially, she didn't block his mobile number. She couldn't say what compelled her. But ever since they broke up, this number had never called again. Later she changed phones, changed her number, thinking it also meant changing things from the past. But she didn't realize memories weren't things that could be changed. After so many years, she could still recognize this number instantly. She also didn't expect he still kept the same number. Qing Jinlong muted her phone. His calls only came once. If not picked up, he wouldn't call again. She bought some paintings. Her friend came to thank her specially, pointing at the oil painting and said, "That is my gift for you, the most beautiful sunset in your memories. I've painted it out for you." During an afternoon tea with this painter friend before, the two sat on the cafe balcony watching the sunset. The sunset that day was gorgeous, sunset glows flooding the sky in gorgeous fiery reds. The painter marveled at the wonder of nature, while Qing Jinlong stirred her coffee with a straw, half resting her cheek in hand, watching the sun gradually set, and said she'd seen more beautiful sunsets. Only after she finished did she realize what she said, immediately changing the topic. She didn't expect her friend still captured that moment of oddness. Qing Jinlong said, "What I described is different from your painting." Her friend added people into the landscape she only described. Her friend replied, "A scene so romantic must have love. Painting should depict what the painter sees, hears and feels. From your expression when you talked about it then, I saw love in your eyes. My intuition is always right." Qing Jinlong denied, "The word love can only be used to fool teenage girls. At our age, talking about feelings and love anymore, it's a bit laughably delusional." Her friend laughed, "Why do you make it sound so gloomy and world-weary? Then tell me, what should we talk about at our age?" Qing Jinlong thought for a moment. Money, careers, and daughters, which of these isn't more reliable than love? Her friend also had a daughter, 2 years younger than Qing Liqui. Her friend agreed, "That's true, but you're missing one thing." "Missing what?" Her friend put an arm around Qing Jinlong's shoulder, leaning to her ear and said, "Sex. You can do without love, but can't do without making love. At our age, we already know how to make ourselves happier, so we should seize the day. Qing, don't take this the wrong way, but your days seem a little too dull. Which wealthy families miss your age lives like you, devoted only to work, daughter, and home every day? You can do without love, but must have men. If one doesn't satisfy, find another. They don't serve much purpose, but help sweat out a summer, warm the sheets in winter. If you find one with better skills, he can even take you to the land of peach blossoms to roam a few rounds. Life needs some enjoyment to go on, don't you think?" Qing Jinlong looked seriously at her multicolored hair and asked, "Can you give me your stylist's contact? Qing Liqui really likes your hair. I'm thinking of also changing my hairstyle to add some interest to life." Her friend pretended to pinch Qing Jinlong's flushed neck. Each time this topic came up, she could divert it somewhere else, yet insist talking about love was daydreaming. Clearly she was the one daydreaming, but built a wall for herself, didn't want to climb over, and had no plans to. In the end, Qing Jinlong didn't take the painting home either. It was a memory she desperately tried to discard, so how could she bring a painting back as a constant reminder? But by the time she picked up Qing Liqui from kindergarten and returned home, the painting had also been delivered home, with a note from her friend, "Avoidance is futile for some matters. Since you can't let go, you might as well bravely confront it." Qing Liqui circled around the painting. "Wow, Mom, is this painting of my little island?" That remote island originally belonged to Qing Jinlong. After Qing Liqui was born, she transferred it to her name. She never returned after that. In recent summers, Fei Zuhui would take Qing Liqui there to stay for a period. "Yes, it depicts your little island." Qing Jinlong didn't want Qing Liqui to look too closely at this painting, carrying it towards the basement storage. Qing Liqui followed excitedly behind, asking, "Are the people in the painting Mom and Dad?" Qing Jinlong answered, "No," afraid she wouldn't believe it. She added, "It's your maternal grandparents when they were young." Qing Liqui made a long O sound. Grandpa said Grandma had short hair when she was young, but the woman in the painting clearly had long hair like Mom. But she wouldn't poke holes in Mom's story. Before going to bed, Qing Jinlong thought of something and asked, "Mom, is Dad coming to watch my performance tomorrow?" Tomorrow was Children's Day, and Qing Liqui and Shinchuki were going to perform a four-hand piano duet on stage. Mom would be there, Grandma would be there, Uncle Tangy Cheng always said he wouldn't go watch her performances but ended up showing up every time, and Xiao Qingze would also come, but Grandpa Fei Zhuhui was too busy to attend, though Grandma would record a video for Grandpa to watch later. She had been so focused on trying to figure out how to trick Dad earlier that morning that she forgot to invite him. Qing Jinlan kissed her forehead and said, "Your dad has to work tomorrow, so he probably can't make it. But don't worry, Mom will record a video that you can send to him later, okay?" Qing Liqui nodded. "Mom, you have to film me looking very beautiful and pretty. My little Liqui is already so beautiful, there's no need for Mom to do anything special," Qing Jinlan said with a smile. "If Mom is beautiful, then of course I'm beautiful too," Qing Liqui declared. "All right, my little sweetheart, it's time for bed. Sleep well tonight, and you'll look even more beautiful tomorrow." "You're right, I need to sleep well so my skin will be nice." Qing Liqui patted her little blanket. "Mom, will you sleep with me tonight?" Of course, Mom loves sleeping with her little Liqui the most. Qing Liqui giggled happily and snuggled into her mother's arms. Children fall asleep quickly, and though she had been chatting animatedly just moments before, within 2 minutes her little chest was rising and falling as she drifted into dreamland. Qing Jinlan lay in bed for a while but couldn't fall asleep. She slowly slipped her arm out from under Qing Liqui, got up and put on a cardigan before going out to the balcony. When she couldn't sleep, she liked to sit on the balcony for a bit. The summer nights were cooler outside than in the air-conditioned room, and the roses on the balcony were in full bloom. Qing Jinlan dimmed the lights on the balcony and put on some soft music, then reclined languidly on a deck chair. Her phone lit up on the table and she stared at the number for a while before picking up. She didn't say anything. The person on the other end of the line seemed surprised that she had answered and was momentarily at a loss for words. Both sides were silent. Just as Qing Jinlan was about to hang up, Xiao Qingze spoke. "Still not asleep? If I was asleep, could I have answered your call?" Qing Jinlan retorted. Xiao Qingze chuckled, conceding it was a silly question. "Are you able to come out for a bit? I'm at your gate. If you have something to say it over the phone. If not, I'm hanging up." Qing Jinlan had no intention of going out. "It's Children's Day tomorrow. I have some gifts for little Liqui." Xiao Qingze leaned against his car, looking at the lights within the compound. "You probably don't want me showing up at the kindergarten tomorrow, so I came to deliver them tonight." She did indeed not want him appearing at the kindergarten tomorrow. After a long pause, Qing Jinlan got up and walked down the stairs to open the small gate in the yard. She took the gifts from him and turned to leave, but Xiao Qingze called out to stop her. Qing Jinlan looked back at him. He seemed to have just come from some business dinner, still in a formal suit though his tie was loosened and 2 shirt buttons undone. Her gaze lingered for a moment on the cut on his lip before quickly shifting away. "Anything else? I'd like to give you compensation and an apology." Qing Jinlan looked at him suspiciously. "Apologize for what?" "The sunglasses you lent me to cover my eyes yesterday, I was going to return them today but accidentally broke them. I had my secretary order a replacement pair but they were limited edition and sold out. If they're broken then they're broken, no need to replace them." Qing Jinlan sensed a trap. Xiao Qingze smiled gently. "That won't do. You didn't get my mouth and hands for free, so naturally I can't take your sunglasses for free either. I have to do something for you, money is too vulgar." His voice was measured and faintly husky. "Judging by how things went last night, it seems you were quite satisfied with my services. I think this makes up for it fairly." Qing Jinlan looked at him silently. Xiao Qingze went on. "Those sunglasses of yours cost tens of thousands. My services are worth a penny. So I'll have to serve you millions of times to make up for it. Once a day, that's thousands of years. Mr. Xiao is so good at math." Qing Jinlan's words held a sharp edge. Xiao Qingze smiled amiably. "No math required here, just a calculator to figure it out. Even if I live out my full lifespan, I can't make it to 1,000 years old. So I can only devote the rest of my life to you. Any time you need, I can come over to be of service. Quite a good bargain, wouldn't you say?" Qing Jinlan looked at him with amusement. "I don't know where Mr. Xiao got the idea that I was satisfied with his services. There's a saying, you get what you pay for. The penny I paid means your services are only worth that penny. With skills like yours, no amount of sessions will be of any use. I'm not lacking for money if I have needs. I'd rather spend hundreds of thousands to get quality service that's worth more than your millions of times. Before Qing Jinlan could finish, she was pulled swiftly into his embrace, barely avoiding crashing into his chest since she was holding the pink gift box. Read lat stchers on n/v/l/b.i.cm. Sensing his intentions, she put a hand against his shoulder and warned harshly, "Don't you dare, Xiao Qingze." Xiao Qingze looked into her eyes. The last time, in the parking garage, she had asked, "Do you dare, Xiao Qingze?" Did he dare? Of course he dared. He always dared. That day in the parking garage, he thought she was married, so as long as she dared, there was nothing he wouldn't dare either. Let alone now. She knew what family he was from, yet still let him get close. What did that imply? Xiao Qingze had an inkling, though he intended to discover it slowly. She shouldn't provoke him like this. The mouth may lie, but other parts are surely soft, her teeth, for example. Xiao Qingze gripped her chin, tilting upwards, and leaned down, giving her no chance to retreat. Qing Jinlan began to lift her knee, but he trapped her legs with his. Not only was there a disparity in strength between men and women, he knew her sensitive spots all too well. His hands remained proper, just holding her waist tightly, but his lips and tongue roamed freely. For some reason, though her teeth should have been clenched shut, her jaw relaxed. Unlike last night when he was in a daze and she drunk, they were both clear-headed now, yet equally losing themselves. The gift box in her hands dropped to the ground with a soft thud, jolting the entranced people back to awareness. Qing Jinlan opened her eyes and bit down again on the cut she had made last night until fresh blood came out. "Let me go." She was angry and ashamed at her brief loss of control. Her hands had even gripped his neck instead of slapping him like they should have. But Xiao Qingze did not release her, his lips still pressed to hers as he asked softly, "How much do you think the session of my services is worth?" "On par with those hundreds of thousands ones?" Voices could be heard faintly in the distance. It seemed to be her parents, Fei Zuhui and Qing Shanhe, who liked taking an evening stroll after dinner, though they usually returned by 9 p.m. She didn't know why they were out so late today. Qing Jinlan was about to speak, but Xiao Qingze's warm breath lingered teasingly at the corners of her mouth. "Think carefully before you answer." If she couldn't think clearly, he didn't mind just kissing her until she did. The night was long after all. A million. Are you satisfied?" Qing Jinlan was exasperated, afraid he might kiss her again. Being caught kissing a man by her parents at their front door was a scene she dreaded imagining. She felt like she was 17 or 18 again. Xiao Qingze was not entirely satisfied with this answer. He wanted her to explicitly admit he was expensive. Yet she had acknowledged it. On second thought, he felt it was better to be cheap. A million was too much. Exactly $1 would be perfect, more than a penny, yet still able to tie him to her for the rest of his life. The force around her waist loosened, and Qing Jinlan retreated back into the yard, then reached out to grab his collar and pulled him into the yard as well, leaving only the pink gift box at the empty doorway. Qing Jinlan wanted to go pick it up, but it was too late. She could only resign herself to fate and hope that her mother wouldn't see it. Of course it was impossible that she wouldn't see it. The pink of the box was especially eye-catching in the night, and Fei Zuhui's eyes were looking towards her daughter's home as she talked about Qing Liqui's amusing stories. "Oh, why is there a box at the old Chang's doorway?" Fei Zuhui's voice rang out just one wall away, and Qing Jinlan's breath had just been stolen away moments before. She hadn't recovered yet. Now hearing her mother discover the box, her already unsteady breathing became even more urgent. The lights on the balcony and doorway were still on, meaning she hadn't gone to sleep yet. Her mother would probably take the box, enter the passcode and come in to ask about it. Qing Jinlan first used her eyes to warn Xiao Qingze not to make any noise, then pulled his wrist, thinking about where in the yard would be best to hide him. She pulled, but he didn't move. She pulled again, but he still didn't move. Qing Jinlan turned her head to look at him. "Let's go," she whispered through gritted teeth. What was he staying put for? To confront her parents face to face at the doorway? But Xiao Qingze still stood in place, his gaze deep and obscure. She had rarely lowered her defenses, revealing such a flustered girlish side. Probably because her mind was tense, her hand gripped his wrist tightly, not rejecting such natural intimacy with him. She should have already showered, her hair clipped up in a shark fin style was a bit messy from their earlier tussle, and a few loose strands hung lazily at her neckside. Her porcelain white face was like jade, her brows and eyes a dark black, a hint of passion at the corners of her eyes. Her delicate red lips were dotted with smudges of crimson, that was his blood. Under the clear moonlight, it aroused a person's very soul. Xiao Qing's fingertip rubbed at her lip beads, the light in his eyes growing deeper bit by bit as his fingertip moved. He was kissing her with his eyes. Qing Jinlan was furious, and bit down hard on his fingers, as hard as she could, wishing she could bite his fingers right off. The warmth and wetness enveloping his finger, Xiao Qingze felt a fire ignite through his body in that moment, burning away the last shreds of reason left in his eyes. His blood rushed swiftly to one place. If it were possible, he really wanted to use the door in front of them as a bed, and pin her against it. He reached out to circle her waist. With the force he used to grab someone, Qing Jinlan should have slammed right into his body, but at the last moment, he controlled her shoulder with his other hand, leaving a barely discernible gap between their bodies. He wanted to be a gentleman, but couldn't become a gentleman, so he could only pretend to be one. No wonder she called him despicable and shameless. His hand was in her mouth, his lips buried in her neck. Her long, fair neck under his hot lips couldn't help but arch high, facilitating his actions even more. Qing Jinlan was wearing soft slippers, even stomping down hard on his leather shoes wouldn't produce much force. The two of them silently pulled back and forth. Sometimes, silent entanglement was more intoxicating than loud intimacy. Outside the door, Fei Zuhui was just about to enter the passcode, but Qing Shanhe stopped his wife. Fei Zuhui looked back at him. "What's wrong?" Qing Shanhe pointed at the car parked not far away in the darkness. "Don't go in, looks like someone's here." Only then did Fei Zuhui notice the car concealed by the night. She peered at the license plate number, very unique digits, somewhat familiar, but she couldn't recall where she had seen it before. She was happy inside, and unconsciously lowered her voice. Could she be dating a friend? Don't tell me it's that family boy I saw yesterday? I thought at first glance of his photo that he would be the type my daughter likes, didn't expect them to progress so quickly. No matter how low Fei Zuhui kept her voice, the two people inside the door could hear very clearly. Because of the phrase "the type she likes," Xiao Qing's biting grew heavier. Qing Jinlan was tormented by the feeling that was neither ticklish nor painful, letting out indistinct noises from her throat, like a cat hiding by the wall late at night. She hurriedly tried to stop it, venting all her irritation onto her teeth, biting Xiao Qingze until he also let out a muffled grunt, which was then quickly muffled by a pair of white hands. "You don't understand your own daughter. Since when has she been the type to bring a man home after one meal together?" Qing Shanhe poured cold water on his wife's ideas. Fei Zuhui was curious. Then who could it be? Qing Shanhe looked at the car, lost in thought, but he didn't voice his suspicions aloud. "No need to worry so much about it, let's go home. Don't end up with wrinkles later and blame it on me." Most up-to-date NVELs are published on n0velgen.co/m. Fei Zuhui scolded him. "How can you say that? Do I have wrinkles on my face?" Qing Shanhe immediately apologized to his wife. "Madam doesn't have any wrinkles, wrinkles have to detour when they see you." Fei Zuhui punched him hard. "What should we do about this box then?" "Leave it at the doorway, it's not like it'll get lost. Whoever it belongs to will naturally come to collect it." The two voices gradually faded away until they could no longer be heard. Qing Jinlan gathered her strength in her knees and thrust upwards at the spot between his legs. Xiao Qing's eyes flickered slightly, his legs started to shift back but ultimately didn't move, only turning slightly to the side. The expected pain came, he bent over and leaned into her shoulder, the veins on his forehead bulging as his face turned purple. "Serves you right," Qing Jinlan panted heavily, vigorously wiping her lips with her hand. If not for seeing beads of sweat appear on his face, she would have kicked him again, best if it hurt him to death. Their heavy and gentle breaths intermingled, quickening and slowing in the quiet night, sounding especially ambiguous. Qing Jinlan pushed the person leaning on her shoulder. "Don't pretend to be dead." The person leaning against her shoulder didn't move or respond. Qing Jinlan lowered her head to look at him. His skin was on the pale side. Under the light from the doorway, the layers of sweat beaded on his temple were especially obvious. She knew best how much force she had used, enough to make him lose the ability to continue his family line. "Do you need me to call a doctor?" Her fierce voice carried a few unnatural notes. Xiao Qingze hugged her waist, his breath weak. If one didn't know better, they'd think he was on the verge of death. No need, let me rest against you for a while and I'll be fine. Qing Jinlong wanted to say, go ahead and lean, but get your hands off me. But when the words reached her throat, she swallowed them back down again, turning her head the other way to stare blankly at the pattern on the big door, pretending to be an unfeeling wooden post. A dog was barking in the distance at someone's home, the moon hid behind the clouds and the night sky darkened. The light cast the shadow of their embracing figures flickering unsteadily on the big door, giving off a somewhat lingering feeling. Qing Jinlong's eyelashes quivered, she closed her eyes, then quickly opened them again. The unnameable emotions in her eyes dispersed, replaced by impatience. Still not feeling better? How much could it have hurt? Xiao Qingzi didn't want to tell her just how much that kind of pain hurt. He lifted his pale lips to look at her. The pitiful look in his eyes was exactly the same as Qing Liqui's expression when she got hurt by accident and sought comfort. Qing Jinlong slept very uneasily that night, dreaming of someone she shouldn't have dreamt about. Her body was covered in a layer of sticky sweat, making her very uncomfortable. She flipped off her blankets and stared blankly up at the ceiling for a while, feeling that this dream was entirely due to being influenced by her best friend's words, and had nothing to do with anyone or anything else. She got up and went to the bathroom to rinse off with cold water, washing away the sweat on her body, but unable to rinse away the restlessness in her heart. This restlessness grew stronger upon seeing her damp neck reflected in the mirror. Qing Liqui climbed groggily out of bed and saw her mother come in. She stretched out both arms for her mother to carry her. Qing Jinlong sat at the head of the bed and placed her on her lap, pinching her chubby little cheeks. Little one, happy holiday. Qing Liqui circled her arms around her mother's neck, smiling until her eyes were little crescents. Mama best friend, even happier holiday. Qing Jinlong patted her little bottom. Time to get up, the living room is full of presents for you, waiting for you to unwrap them. When Qing Liqui first woke up, she loved nestling against her mother to act coquettish, rubbing her face here and there against her mother's neck, like a lazy little piglet. Even presents couldn't make her leave her mother's embrace. As Qing Liqui nuzzled, she suddenly realized something was off. Mama, your neck has so many red spots. Qing Jinlong brushed the stray hairs from her forehead and carried her outside. It's summer, the mosquitoes are out. Mama got bitten by mosquitoes. Qing Liqui was afraid her mother was in pain, and blew on the red marks to soothe them. Mama, I don't like mosquitoes. Qing Jinlong replied, Mama doesn't like mosquitoes either. Next time mosquitoes come, I'll help Mama get rid of them and not let them bite you. Qing Jinlong laughed. Our little Liqui has really grown up, already able to protect Mama. Qing Liqui nodded. Of course. Mama protects me, so I have to protect Mama too. As soon as she finished talking, she saw the pile of presents in the living room. Her eyes lit up. Wow, Mama, are all these gifts for me? That's right, they're all for you. Qing Jinlong told her one by one who had given each gift, finally pointing at the pink box and saying, that one is from your dad. Qing Liqui was thrilled. She had her mother put her down so she could sit amidst the present fortress. Her mother unwrapped one for her, she would exclaim wow, unwrapping another she would exclaim wow, again. Upon reaching her father's gift, her volume shot up a notch higher. Mama, look quick, it's a princess crown, exactly the same as the one I saw in the fairy tale book. The diamonds on it are pink and so shiny, so beautiful. Mama, help me put it on. Qing Jinlong put it on her head for her and held up a mirror for her to see. The more Qing Liqui looked at herself in the mirror, the prettier she felt. Mama, can I wear it on stage today to perform? You can. Mama will style your hair like a princess later, then you can wear this. It will definitely be even more beautiful. Qing Liqui stood up straight and kissed her mother's chin vigorously twice. I love you, Mom, the most. In addition to this princess crown, there was also a small box in the pink box. When Qing Liqui saw that little box, her eyes shone even brighter. Mom, this is a gift from Dad for you. Because she saw it said for Mom on the box, and Mom was her best friend, of course she should have a gift too. Qing Liqui wanted to open the box, but Qing Jinlong stopped her. That's enough, we'll take a look at this gift later. You should go wash up now, otherwise there won't be enough time to do your princess hair. Qing Liqui got up swiftly and ran to the bathroom. She wanted to have her princess hair done. Qing Jinlong cleaned up the torn gift boxes and threw them all in the trash can. Then she sorted all the gifts and put them in Qing Liqui's room separately. She threw that small box in her bag to return it to him next time they met. She couldn't accept gifts from him in case he tried to take advantage of her again. Shen Shiwen called Xiao Qingzhe first thing in the morning, but no one picked up. So she dialed another number, and this time it was answered right away. Hey, are you going to the kindergarten today? Xiao Chuqi and little Liqui are having a piano duet performance. Didn't I tell you not to call me on this number unless it's important? Xiao Qingzhe's voice sounded a little hoarse, as if he had just woken up. Shen Shiwen was surprised. It's June 1st today. The sun must be rising from the west. Our ever-so-busy boss Xiao actually has time to sleep in. Are you sick or what? I just got up late, that's all. All right, the perks of being the boss means you get to sleep in whenever you want. Are you going to the kindergarten? If you do, would you please help me record a video of my son's entire performance? Shen Shiwen was on a film set and couldn't make it back. I have meetings, I can't go. Shen Shiwen clicked her tongue. Meetings are less important than watching your daughter's performance. She was about to say more when she suddenly realized the meetings were a lie. It's Miss Ching who doesn't want you to show your face, right? The only response was the heartless sound of her phone hanging up. And the more heartless it was, the more she knew she was right. Xiao Qingzhe had his arm over his eyes. Realizing the dream he was just having wouldn't continue, he got up and went to take a cold shower. When he came out of the bathroom, his phone on the nightstand was ringing. It was a video call. Xiao Qingzhe tossed aside the towel and answered. A little figure appeared on the screen. Daddy, look at my princess crown, isn't it gorgeous? Xiao Qingzhe's eyes softened. It's very gorgeous. It's because our little Liqui is so pretty that she makes the princess crown even more beautiful. Qing Liqui giggled happily. Daddy, you can't come to kindergarten to watch me perform today, right? Mommy said you're busy with work. That's right, Daddy owes you an apology. I can't go watch your performance because of work. It's okay, Daddy, work is important too. I'll have Mommy record a video and send it to you, so Daddy can still watch it. Xiao Qingzhe's voice turned gentle as water. Thank you for being so understanding, little Liqui. I called Daddy because I wanted to say thank you for the gift. I love it so much. Little Liqui can tell Daddy anything she wants or likes in the future. Daddy will get it for you. Qing Liqui happened to have something she wanted. Then Daddy, can you get that for me? Get what? Qing Liqui propped her chin and thought hard. What was that thing called again? Oh right, she clapped her hands when she remembered. An electric mosquito swatter. Mosquitoes bit Mommy's neck and left lots of red spots. Grandma Chu said electric mosquito swatters can eliminate mosquitoes. Daddy, please get me an electric swatter. Next time mosquitoes come, I want to protect Mommy and help Mommy get rid of them without leaving a single one behind. Xiao Qingzhe, Qing Liqui and Shen Chuqi's four-hand piano duet, as the last climax program, won thunderous applause. After Qing Liqui thanked the audience, she held Shen Chuqi's hand and walked off the stage like a proud little princess. As soon as she got backstage, the proud little princess turned into a lively girl next door. She lifted her skirt and ran to her mother, hugging her mother's neck and asking for praise. Mom, did we play well? Qing Jinlan never stinted on praising her daughter. Not just well, exceptionally well. You cooperated so seamlessly. Our little Liqui and little Chuqi are getting better and better. Shen Chuqi was praised by Chang's mother and felt a little embarrassed. He scratched his head and said, I still need to keep practicing hard. I have to play as well as Uncle Xiao before I'm satisfied. Qing Liqui loved listening to Uncle Xiao play the piano, so he had to practice hard and play as beautifully as Uncle Xiao, or even better. Qing Liqui said to Shen Chuqi, Little Chuqi, let's work hard together. Dad said that persistently practicing every day, we could become as good as him very quickly. Wearing a little tuxedo and a small black bow tie with a standard 3/7 hairstyle, Shen Chuqi looked like a little prince gentleman. He looked up at Qing Liqui with his clear black and white eyes full of laughter and said, Okay, let's work hard together. He had originally felt practicing the piano every day was very tiring, but with Qing Liqui working hard together with him, it didn't seem so tiring anymore. Seeing the interaction between the two children, Qing Jinlan laughed to herself. Qing Liqui suddenly thought of something. Mom, Dad said he can play the piano really well too. I've never heard Dad play the piano before. Have you heard Dad play, Mom? Qing Jinlan's gaze darkened. She inexplicably felt that the red on her neck that she had barely managed to cover up with 2 layers of concealer was itching again. Qing Liqui craned her neck and peered closely at her mother's ear. "Mom, your ear suddenly turned red." It was snow white just now, and in an instant it turned red, like magic. How amazing. Now not only were Qing Jinlan's ears red, a blush was spreading down her neck. She hastily came up with an excuse, "It's too hot in here. Let's hurry and go find Grandma." "Your grandpa came too." "Grandpa finished work?" Qing Liqui was delighted. She thought Grandpa hadn't come. Qing Shanhe hadn't finished work at all. As chairman, he simply kicked things down to his son Qing Jinchuan and told him to get busy so he could come see his granddaughter's performance. Qing Jinlan replied, "Your uncle took care of your grandpa's business matters, so your big uncle didn't come, but Grandpa did." "Wow, let's go quickly and find Grandpa and Grandma." Qing Liqui's attention was quickly diverted. She didn't need her mom to carry her anymore and slid down from her mom's arms, grabbed Shinchuki's hand, and ran off, forgetting that her mom still hadn't answered whether she had heard Dad play the piano before. Qing Jinlan had heard it before, once. It was the first birthday after they had gotten together. She hadn't thought much of birthdays originally. She had one every year, nothing novel anymore. But that time, she had a bit more anticipation because he said he would come over. With them living far apart in the north and south, they didn't see each other often. It had been almost a month since they last met, and as her birthday approached, she was practically counting down the days. She didn't notice it at first until Jiang Meng saw the marks she made on the calendar and asked if she had any special plans this year for her birthday, since she had never seen her mark off each day leading up to an important day like this before. Only then did she realize it wasn't that she was looking forward to her birthday, but rather, that he would be there to celebrate her birthday with her. The night before her birthday, he called and said something had come up at the last minute, so he could only send a gift and couldn't make it himself. She said aloud that it was fine, but she did feel a bit stifled inside. It wasn't like she lacked people who would give her gifts. On her actual birthday morning, she didn't pick up his call, only replying with a message that she was in class. But her irritation didn't last too long. Shi Ran, Li Peifeng, Jiang Jiang and other good friends came noisily to her school, saying they wanted to tour the sights of Jiangnan and incidentally celebrate her birthday while they were at it. With friends coming over, who still remembered that man? That day her birthday was celebrated very boisterously. Li Peifeng had booked an entire bar. Childhood friends, college classmates, everyone gathered together. After Li Peifeng livened up the scene, Qing Jinlan as the birthday star was coaxed on stage. Her Cantonese wasn't great, but she loved Cantonese songs, and was really into Eason Chan's No Conditions at that time, especially the version with just piano accompaniment. There happened to be a piano on stage, so Shi Ran went up to accompany her on piano. The song was sung slowly to the very last line, and then her phone vibrated with an incoming call. Qing Jinlan didn't want to answer it initially, but picked up right before the last ring. She took the phone and stepped off stage. Li Peifeng called out, "Hey, Qing Tu, where are you going?" With your voice plus Shi Ran's piano, it's practically the skill level of artistic masters. "One song isn't enough, give us another." Without turning back, Qing Jinlan said, "The master is taking a call. You guys sing first." "Outside?" the person on the phone asked. Qing Jinlan pushed open the door and went out to the street. The night air was great, devoid of the day's stuffiness, and the wind brought a touch of coolness. She smoothed down her wind-tousled hair. Her voice was full of delight. "Yeah, Jiang Jiang and the others came over to hang out together outside. If you won't come for my birthday, there will always be people who will celebrate with me. I'm still having lots of fun." "Shi Ran is there too?" He's here. I've always spent my birthday with them before." The phone went silent. Seeing he wasn't speaking, Qing Jinlan didn't feel like talking either. What was the point of calling her if he had nothing to say? "If there's nothing, I'm going to hang up. They're still waiting for me." Xiao Qingzai said, "I'm downstairs at your place." "Huh? I came over." "Oh," Qing Jinlan idly scuffed the stone patterns on the ground with her shoes. "Didn't you say you couldn't make it?" "I finished up my matters and rushed over immediately." "Oh. So he had rushed over. How much longer will you be out?" "A while more." Xiao Qingzai asked, "Where are you?" "I can come over." "Don't bother." Qing Jinlan rejected very swiftly. Her college classmates were fine, Shi Ran and Jiang Jiang were also okay, but with Li Peifeng there, with his big mouth, the moment he saw Xiao Qingzhe, Qing Jinchuan and her parents would know within a second that she was dating. Dating itself wasn't an issue, the problem was who she was dating. His identity wouldn't hold up to Qing Jinchuan's probing questions. You rushed over, you must be tired. Don't bother anymore. Go upstairs first. I'll be back soon too. She didn't go back that soon either. All her friends were still there, why should she change her plans just because he came or didn't come? She knew she was being petulant, and petulantly gambling at that, also gambling distractedly, sneaking glances at her phone from time to time, wondering if she should ask if he had eaten, then thinking he was a grown man, if hungry he could find food himself. At 11, a message came in. Come back, at least let me celebrate your birthday properly with you. Because of his words, Qing Jinlan stopped Li Peifeng's intention to stay out all night. She first sent them to the hotel she had booked, then sent Jiang Meng and the others back to school. At 11:55, she walked in her own door. When Qing Jinlan started university, afraid she wouldn't adapt to dormitory life, Fei Zuhui had bought an apartment near campus, furnished identical to her room at home. Fei Zuhui knew she was sentimental about familiarity and didn't like change. This place was like her home transferred over. The only light on was a wall lamp, casting dim lighting. A small cake sat on the coffee table. He was dozing off leaning against the sofa. Qing Jinlan crouched down looking at him. They hadn't seen each other for a month, he had lost some weight and looked worn out, brow furrowed even in sleep. He wasn't sleeping heavily and woke up when he heard movement. Seeing her, before he was fully awake, his eyes already smiled. He reached to pull her into his arms. In that moment, all of Qing Jinlan's irritation dissipated. What was there to be angry about? He still came in the end. In the last minute of that day, he accompanied her in blowing out the candles. CHCK for US to rise on no/v/l/bin.c0m. Sitting together on the sofa, he idly stroked her hair and casually asked, "What all did you do?" On the phone it sounded really lively. "What else could we do? Li Peifeng booked a whole bar. We ate cake, played games, sang songs. I've never heard you sing before." Qing Jinlan looked back at him. "It's my birthday. If anyone should sing, it's you who should sing for me." She had never heard him sing either. Xiao Qingzhe's eyes fell on the piano sitting in the corner. "What song do you like?" "I can play piano for you." Qing Jinlan was a bit skeptical. "You can play piano too?" The piano was just decor here. Her family's rooms had a piano, so her mother had put one here too. She would occasionally play a little when struck by a whim, but more than playing herself, she preferred listening to others play. She didn't know why, but she felt he didn't seem the type to play piano. Maybe because he was always stone-faced, she couldn't imagine what he would look like playing piano. Though he did have hands suited for playing piano, slender fingers and prominent knuckles. Xiao Qingzhe directly picked her up and carried her over to the piano. He sat down and had her sit on his lap, effortlessly playing a segment of Autumn Whispers. Qing Jinlan looked at him, eyes shining. "Really good." Xiao Qingzhe kissed the corner of her upturned lips. "What do you want to hear?" She wanted to hear a lot. He played song after song until the mood changed, and besides the piano, other sounds emerged. Sitting across from each other, in the rocking up and down, her mind slowly dissolved into mist. Xiao Qingzhe nibbled her ear and asked, "Do I play better, or does Shi Ran play better?" Qing Jinlan basically couldn't make out what he was asking. She clung tightly to his neck, only able to let out hurried pants and soft whimpers. For a long time after that day, Qing Jinlan spent all her time in the school dormitory. She couldn't go home. As soon as she got home, she would see the piano, and the scene from that night would replay over and over in her mind as soon as she saw the piano. It wasn't until Qing Liqui left kindergarten that the heat in Qing Jinlan's ears finally dissipated. Qing Liqui's question, along with last night's dream, made her think about too many things she shouldn't have thought about. Shi Ran called her twice without getting a response before lightly patting her on the shoulder. Only then did Qing Jinlan come back to her senses. "What are you thinking about? You seem so spaced out." Qing Jinlan forced a smile. "Nothing much. I probably didn't sleep well last night." "What's up?" Sure, Ran replied, something came up at school this afternoon, so I can't go to the amusement park with you guys. Qing Jinlan and Fei Zuhui were going to take Qing Liqui to the amusement park after kindergarten let out that afternoon. No problem. Go take care of your things. She was already very happy that you came to see her performance. Qing Liqui was carried over by her grandfather. Sure, Dad, are you leaving? Yes, I'm sorry, little Liqui. Sure, Dad has to work suddenly and can't go to the amusement park with you. Qing Liqui waved her hand. It's okay, sure, Dad. The amusement park isn't going anywhere. Next time when you have time, we can go together again. Everyone burst out laughing at her serious tone. Sure, Ran laughed and said, okay, the amusement park isn't going anywhere, and my promise to go with little Liqui again isn't going anywhere either. I will definitely go with little Liqui again. It's a promise. Qing Liqui hooked pinkies with her dad to make the promise. Qing Jinlan pinched her little cheek. She didn't know where this little adult learned to talk like that, so well-spoken and mature. Qing Shanhe also laughed, but his gaze turned to a car parked in the shade of a nearby tree. He looked at the license plate. It was the same car that had been parked outside second uncle's house last night. Watching the happy family scene, Xiao Qingzhe gripped the door handle. He opened the door but didn't get out. He couldn't go out. Well, that's all for this part, truckers. See you all in the next video.